After being kicked out of his party, everyone thought he was finished, just another weak mage with no future. But they didn't know one thing. This guy isn't just a mage. He's a crafty genius who can build, invent, and outsmart anyone. Left alone on the frontier, he starts from zero. No soldiers, no companions, just his brain and a little magic. But piece by piece, he transforms the wilderness into a thriving settlement. From traps to tools, from shelters to powerful artifacts, everything he touches becomes a masterpiece. While others swing swords, he builds entire kingdoms with his creativity. And the world is about to learn that a crafty mage doesn't need strength when he can create everything he needs. This is the story of the man who turns the frontier into his playground, the crafty mage. The story begins with the protagonist who is asking the person in front of him why he wants to fight against the humans and if he is out of his mind. He is the Knight's production mage, Joshua, and he addresses the person as Logue, as he asks if he wants to steal the territory of other nobles who've gotten weak from fighting against the Demon King's army, like a sneak thief. Logue, who is the captain of the Knights of Schwarz, then slams his hand on the table out of rage and asks if he is calling him a hero, a sneak thief. The Knights of Schwarz was formed to fight against the Demon King's army and is now recognized as an order, while Logue the commander and his childhood friend was commended for his fighting and was conferred countship. That's when he started to change, as he's been inviting nobles day after day, holding parties, flaunting luxury goods, sleeping with ladies, and indulging himself in alcohol and meat. After that, Joshua voices his opinion, saying it would be an undeniable invasion, but Logue tells him to shut his mouth. Logue additionally says that he let him attend this meeting as the oldest member of the order and the production department chief, and all he is doing is complaining. Stunned by Logue's behavior, Joshua replies that he doesn't want to make tools that can kill innocent people with his magic. He then requests Logue to go back to the way he used to be and further adds that he doesn't want to work for an order that attacks people. Logue becomes speechless hearing him, but Joshua continues that now's the time to focus on the Demon King's army, and they are fighting against them, not the humans. Logue then calmly addresses Joshua and menacingly points his finger at him, saying he doesn't need him. After that, he spouts it's all because he can only make such lousy tools in the first place, that they can't fight against the Demon King's army, as he throws his sword on the table. Following their argument, the others chatter about how production mages are goldbrickers and that they could just buy better quality tools if this is the best they can do. Joshua then shakily asks Logue if he is not needed in the order. In reply, Logue says he doesn't need anyone who doesn't obey him. Furthermore, he tells Joshua to get lost and brands him as a filthy goldbricker, while Joshua stands astounded. He then reminisces about the time when Logue complimented his swords and shakily replies, "As you wish." Then, he leaves the room, and after shutting the door, he drowns in depression as he could hear sounds of laughter coming from inside the room. The vertically long continent of Medius has a human nation in the north and the Demon King's territory in the south, and after quitting the order, he headed south towards the front line of the fight against the Demon King's army in search of work. He sighs in concern, since he needs to make a living off his production magic somehow, and describes that it's a magic that combines various elements, letting him make almost anything in the extra dimension, as long as he has the materials. Most of his stuff is in the extra dimension, so he only got his backpack, and following him is the slime he named Wiz. Suddenly, he flinches from the rustling noise from the bushes ahead, and from the bushes, a tattered young girl covered in injuries appears and looks as if she is being chased. Joshua becomes concerned seeing blood on her, and asks what happened and if she is okay. After that, some thugs arrive in pursuit, and demand her to stop, as they address her as Demi. Furthermore, they chatter about how they will get a high price since they got a fine jewel, and one of them says he will have a taste before that, while Joshua identifies them as slave hunters. Then after, Joshua tells them to wait and asks if they don't know that slave hunting is forbidden, as he protects the girl. The thugs then wondered who he is, but it didn't matter much, they would have to get rid of him since he saw them. On the other hand, Joshua utters the word, absorb, and suddenly, all of their weapons vanish, leaving them confused. Then, as one of the thugs wonders why his axe is gone, Joshua catches him off guard and kills him in one strike using a small sharp object. Following that, he disassembles the axes sent to the extra dimension and turns them into new weapons. He shouts steel arrow, and it pierces through the remaining thugs' throats as a form of ranged attack from his extra dimension. Seeing Joshua's performance, the girl exclaims wow, in one strike. Meanwhile, Joshua thinks he was nervous since that was his first taste of combat in a while, but they were too easy for him. Moreover, he also notices the escape of the wolf that the thugs caught. After that, Joshua asks if she is okay and she replies by saying a thank you. Afterwards, she struggles to speak because of her injuries, so Joshua says he will cast healing magic on her right away. Joshua then says heal and starts healing her. Meanwhile, the girl says, "It feels so warm." He tells the girl that her legs should be fine, but her stomach wound might reopen. He then crafts cloth using his production magic and asks if it's okay to bandage her up, to which she cautiously replies, "Okay, please do." A while later, Joshua finishes bandaging her body and she thanks him. She then apologizes for the late introduction and says her name is Illya, and that she is a demon. Following her, Joshua also introduces himself, but as Illya tells him her words of gratitude, she suddenly falls into Joshua's arms. He believes that she lost a lot of blood, so he offers help to accompany her home, since she might get attacked along the way. She apologizes while stuttering her words and responds that she will take his kind offer. He then tells her not to worry about it and carries her like a princess, while leaving his backpack to Wiz's care. Illya blushes from his sudden action, and seeing her, he asks if he should carry her on his back, to which she replies it's not a problem at all. After that, Joshua says he almost forgot to take their weapons and armor, so he uses his absorb skill to store their items, leaving Illya surprised. Left with questions, Illya asks what he did just now, to which he replies that it is called production magic and that he stored them in a magic vault. After that, he burns the corpses and leaves the area while carrying Illya. After a while, they reach their destination and Illya tells Joshua that it is their village, but the crowd outside the gate seemed unwelcoming. Then, a one-horned girl addresses Illya as Miss Illya and says that they were looking for her with a concerned look. She then points her spear at Joshua, saying "You there, the human," and demands him to release Illya. But Illya tells her to wait, referring her as Met, and adds that this person saved her. Net responds that she doesn't believe a human saved her, but Illya is in shock that she doesn't believe her. The guards didn't show any intention to back off, so Joshua lets Illya down and tells them he doesn't wish to fight. After that, Joshua tells her to go, while apologizing that a human did such terrible things to her, but she tells him to hold on, since she haven't even returned the favor yet. She also asks why he is apologizing in a teary state, and adds that it's her fault for not even being able to defend herself. He then stares at her and utters her name, but suddenly, someone yells, "We have trouble." A young boy reports that a young fellow took on an armored boar on his own, and got stabbed by his horn. Hearing it, the guards become cornered and chatter about how they told them so many times not to take on armored boars. Hearing that, Joshua monologues that an armored boar is a monster 3 to 5 times the size of a regular boar, which is a match for 10 human hunters. Illya then grabs his coat and asks if he could stay in their village for now, since she wants to return the favor. Joshua nods his head and says he knows how to use simple recovery magic too, so he might be able to help. Inside the village, people gather around the injured man, and Joshua and Illya pass through the crowd to see if he is alright. The injured man apologizes to Illya, saying he just wanted good meat to feed his kids, but he was unfortunate. Meanwhile, Joshua feels empathetic towards him as he recklessly took on an armored boar for the sake of his children. After that, the injured man becomes alerted seeing Joshua, as he is a human, but Illya tells him to relax. She adds that he is the person who saved her, and asks Joshua how he looks, to which he responds that he will stop the bleeding first, since the wound looks deep. Joshua then uses healing magic to close the wound, but it wasn't enough to stop the bleeding. He thinks about cauterizing the wound, but at any rate, he needs clean water. He then asks his slime, Wiz, if he could have it, and Wiz takes a portion of it and hands him over. He then takes the slime and crafts it into a potion using his production magic. After that, he applies it to his wound and tells him to hang in there, since it will hurt at first, but a few moments later, he becomes astounded as he couldn't feel any pain. He also notices that the bleeding has stopped. Joshua explains that slime jelly potion has the effects of both bandage and medicine. Meanwhile, Illya was happy that the wound healed, since that wound appeared to be fatal. At the same time, Met observes the situation in shock, as the crowd exclaims, "It's an act of the gods." After that, the person says, "I'm alive," and thanks Joshua with tears of joy. On the other side, Illya says she can't believe he saved him as well, and that she couldn't ever repay him. But Joshua tells her not to worry about it. He then reminds Illya she should rest until her wounds heal, but she responds that she is okay now, so she wants to repay him. Suddenly, she feels dizzy, so Met requests her to rest for now, but Illya was concerned about repaying Joshua. Met then promises her that she will make sure Joshua stays, and after that, she gets taken away to rest. After she was gone, Met glares at him and takes a deep breath. She then introduces herself and thanks Joshua for saving Illya and their friend by lowering her head. He responds that there is no need to thank him and that he will be leaving right away, but Met says he can't do that, since Miss Illya told her not to let him go. She then adds that the chief's words are absolute, and knowing that Illya is the chief, Joshua gets shocked. Joshua then asks if she is sure about that, since he is a human, to which Met replies that they do resent humans, and frankly, they are terrifying. But he seems different. Additionally, she grabs Joshua's hand and requests him to teach them magic, and that any magic will do. She then shares that the other monsters and humans that pass nearby don't want to have anything to do with them, but he saved them. She also adds that the monsters say their horn is useful, so she wants him to have her horns in her entire body, but Joshua requests her to stop. After that, he explains he didn't receive the education needed to teach magic, but he can make tools, which leaves Met puzzled. Then, while placing his hand on his chest, he tells her that making tools is the job of a production mage. Furthermore, he says he will make tools for this village, and upon hearing it, Met smiles brightly. Later, Joshua goes to inspect the weapons of their village. He finds that the handles are made from branches, and most of the heads are sharp rocks or bones, while Met adds that a few of them are obsidian. He then thinks about something for a second and asks her how many in the village know how to use bows and slings, to which she replies, almost none, and that they get near their game and kill them with spears. Hearing her, Joshua decides he will make weapons that anyone can just pick up and use, so Met asks if it is spears. Joshua replies it is something called crossbows, but Met was unfamiliar with the word. After that, Joshua tries making them, and suddenly, a crossbow appears out of thin air, which makes her surprised. She then wonders if that was an act of the gods, but Joshua denies it and says that it is production magic, and tells her to try holding it. After holding it, she finds that it feels like the combination of a bow and an axe and asks how to use it, to which Joshua responds that they should try it out, and afterward, he orders Wiz to set up some branches outside. Joshua then declares that he is going to hit them, but Matt becomes surprised hearing it. She says there is no way he can hit from that far away, but Joshua leaves her astounded as he accurately hits the target. She then stutters her words as she asks how he hit it from that far away, to which Joshua tells her to try shooting it too. He also proposes they should go hunting to try it out after a bit of practice, and she nods, saying, "Got it." After a while, the children of the village were amazed to see Met destroying a target from afar. Met then says that it is an amazing weapon, while Joshua says it is amazing how she managed to land 5 out of 10 shots in a row. She boasts that she has the ability to master almost any weapon. After all, she has the crest of Asura, but Joshua says he never heard of that crest. Crest is the blessing everyone is born with, and certain crests make it easier to improve certain abilities. She continues to yap about how awesome and powerful her Asura crest is, but Joshua gets the idea that it is a combat-oriented crest. After that, Joshua says they should put that to use and asks if there is any easy game nearby, to which she replies it's just a smaller version of armored boars which they occasionally hunt for food. Joshua then replies they should go and hunt those, and Met nods, saying, okay. He was concerned about close combat, so he asked if spears were her best weapons, to which she replied she fights with clubs more often. Joshua then says he got it and that he will try making one of those instead. A few moments later, Met holds the mace, made by Joshua in fascination, and says that it feels right at home. Furthermore, she says it looks similar to those metal rod things, and with this, she got nothing to fear, while Joshua says he's glad she likes it. After that, they go searching for a wild boar, and a while later, Met spots one. Joshua then says they should aim for that one, since it is not moving, and there aren't any others around. He also says that its head should be relatively soft and asks if she can hit it, to which she responds, leave it to her. After that, she releases the arrow from the crossbow and hits a bullseye on the boar. She then gets up saying she did it and trembles in excitement, since that took down a wild boar so easily. Joshua feels happy looking at her excited state and tells her they should find another one. After they hunt down a couple of wild boars, Met says that she can't believe it let her kill 3 wild boars, and exclaims that this is an amazing weapon, but Joshua warns her that she is being too loud. Suddenly, a large shadow covers them both as Met apologizes, and they notice it is none other than an armored boar. Met blames herself for its appearance, but Joshua says it was attracted by the smell of blood. She then tells him to escape while she becomes the bait, but Joshua says that it's okay. Afterward, she asks if he can take it down, and he responds the Demon King's army tames them, so when he was a kid, he fought one with Logue, his childhood friend. He further explains that they are very simple-minded, so he will stop its movement. He then asks if she could strike it on the head with her metal rod when he succeeds, and she hesitantly replies alright. He defeated one when he was a kid, so if he can't defeat one now, that means he has gotten weaker than before. Then, as the armored boar charges at him, Met warns Joshua to watch out, but he tells her not to worry and uses his skill, Absorb, to store small chunks of rocks from the ground. He crafts rock from his extra dimension and hurls them into the armored boar's eyes. He was distracting it using the rocks filled with sand, and afterward he gives Met the signal, to which she replies, "Roger that." She then strikes the boar using her mace, and with a single strike, the armored boar goes flying in the atmosphere. A few seconds later, the armored boar lands on the ground, and Met couldn't believe that they defeated an armored boar. Joshua then reconfirms that it's dead and says it's a good thing. It was more simple-minded than the Demon King's armies. After that, he asks if she is good to see the power of crossbows and maces now, and she responds with a bright smile that they are both very wonderful weapons. Hearing those words, he reminisces about the criticism he received from his childhood friend and wonders when was the last time he was thanked for something he made. Met then calls Joshua as he wasn't responding, and Joshua apologizes and says he is glad to hear that. Moreover, he says he will make more crossbows and other tools as well. Met replies that she would appreciate that, since that would allow other members of the clan to hunt as well. Joshua then monologues that these kinds of reactions to the things he made make him really happy. Later, everyone in the village becomes amazed to see their hunt and asks Met if she killed all of them herself. She responds in affirmative and says that it was all thanks to Joshua's crossbar. Hearing that, everyone praises that it's an awesome bar and that they didn't know they could hunt with a bar like this. On the other side, Illya tells Joshua she can't believe he did something so dangerous for them, and that she doesn't know how she could ever hope to repay him for everything. But Joshua says there is no need to repay him. He then adds that he has decided to stay there and make tools and weapons for a while, and in exchange for food and a place to sleep, he will also help with hunting when he has time. Met then nods her head, and afterwards, they dine on meat as their dinner. The next morning, Joshua wakes up from the chirping noise of the birds and comments, "That was a good sleep." Next to him, Illya was sleeping soundly on the bed, and seeing her, he started sweating from confusion. He remembers Illya leaving after showing him to the tent, but he becomes surprised for the second time as Met grabs his hand from the other side while asleep. She then talks in her sleep while grabbing his hand, and Joshua is still in confusion. Suddenly, Illya wakes up from slumber. Illya then wishes him good morning and Joshua wishes her back. He asks why are the two of them here, and she replies they were trying to keep his body warm. Meanwhile, Met sleep talks that she is not letting this man go anywhere, as per Illya's order, but Illya yells at her for her weird sleep talking and wakes her up. Met gets up from the bed and wishes both Illya and Joshua good morning in a sleepy tone. She then thanks Joshua for the previous day and tells him to let her know right away if he needs anything. Afterward, Joshua asks if she is going to hunting again, to which she responds that she is going to use the crossbar from the previous day. Joshua says that he understands and tells her to let him first make some weapons for the demons in the village. After that, everyone at the village gather around Joshua as he crafts a bunch of crossbows and bows for them to hunt. From the crowd, Met picks up a bow, and while pulling the string, she says her grandfather was good with these. But suddenly the bow snaps in half. Then she panics, saying she didn't mean to put so much strength into it, while others shouts at her for breaking it. But Joshua says he can make more in no time. Then as Joshua thinks bows might not suit demons due to their strength, he hears a tugging sound and notices Illya drawing a bow perfectly. He asks if she knows how to use a bow, to which she negatively responds that she just saw someone use one in the past. And meanwhile Joshua crafts her an arrow. Then she grabs the arrow wondering what it is and then draws it using her bow. Seeing that, Joshua gets shocked as she shoots the arrow at an incredible speed and asks if it's like that. But Joshua exclaims he can't believe it's her first time. He also says she might have a talent for archery and she happily asks if it's really the case. He replies yes, and to train in her spare time, he crafts more arrows for her. At that, she holds the arrows to her chest and says, okay, with a smile. He adds that some armors wouldn't hurt, and all of a sudden, Joshua calls Met and tells her to hold still, as he activates his wind magic. As Met asks in confusion what this is, Joshua responds he will take her measurements with wind, and then he begins to craft flame armor directly over her clothes. After some time, Joshua says he is done, and Met looks at her completed armor in fascination. Then she exclaims, "So this is armor," and adds that boar horns want to be able to pierce this, whereas Illya couldn't believe he made something so amazing in such short time. Soon after, Met and her team leaves for hunt, and then Joshua questions Illya if there are any sturdy trees around. After getting his answer, they arrive in an iron teak's forest, and Joshua identifies that these trees are tough enough that stone axes can't damage them, and they also don't catch fire easily. He further says that iron teaks are useful because they are sturdy, and thinks that chopping them down will take a while even with the axes he just made. Then he suggests that they should find something else, but Illya leaves Joshua astounded as she goes forward and says it's time to try out their new axes. As Illya goes into her cutting position, Joshua claims it might take some time, but Illya exceeds his expectations by splitting the iron teaks with one strike. Then she says with a smile that she cut it down while Joshua remains in shock. He thought that even normal trees can't be cut like that with a plain axe, but everyone cheers for Illya and vows to do their best. Illya then exclaims that this axe is really amazing, but Joshua replies it's just a plain steel axe. Then as the demons start cutting the trees, Joshua learns that they have muscle strength far surpassing that of humans, and sees Illya is chopping trees down 10 times faster than them. A while later, Joshua looks at the heaped logs and comments that's an impressive haul. Then Illya in a concerning tone asks how they will move it, but Joshua reassures her saying he can store them, as he reaches out his hand uttering absorb and stores them away in an instant. At that, Illya compliments he has incredible power, whereas Joshua averts attention saying he can make lots of different things with that much wood. Then Illya asks what he is planning to make next, to which he responds that he is planning to build a fence so that only the villagers can enter at night. Hearing that, Illya mentions she doesn't know what fences are, but that armored boars often gets in their village and cause a commotion. As she was about to mention another thing, she switches the topic saying it's dangerous at night, and Joshua says that's why they will surround the village with a fence. But before that, he says they should go back to the village and asks if she could show him an elevated open area near the center. She replies that she knows just the place, and a while later, she brings him to the place and says here it is. Then Joshua asks if anything isn't built here, to which she replies no in a sad tone. Out of concern, Joshua looks at Illya, and she mentions they held something like a festival there in the past. He asks if it's alright if they built something there, to which Illya replies with a smile that she thinks the gods would be pleased for them if they use this place for their own sake. At that, Joshua thanks her and says that he will get right to making. After that, he utters build tower and suddenly, a massive tower appears in front of them. In confusion, many people from the village wonders what's that on the hill, and meanwhile, Illya gapes in shock saying she didn't know he could make something that big. Then Joshua mentions he can make something simple like this and offers her to go up, whereas Illya replies okay in a shaky tone. After going up the tower, Illya exclaims wow, and adds that she never thought she would be able to see the village from up so high, and meanwhile, Joshua says it certainly is a splendid view. Joshua points that he can see Met and the others, and that it seems like the hunt is going smoothly. He also says now she'll know everything that's happening around her, and she affirmatively responds they will be able to tell where everyone is and if monsters are coming. Joshua then mentions he is thinking of having someone stand there and keep watch, and alert others when the village is in danger. He also mentions that building more watchtowers along the 4 sides of the village, and Illya says she will find those with the best eyesight and hearing. Then Joshua decides he will surround the village with a log fence, so he asks Illya if she could get some residents to gather stone for reinforcement, to which she replies that she will get them to do it at once. A few moments later, everyone in the village was shocked when Joshua built large wooden fence surrounding the whole village. Then Joshua says that'll do it, while Illya and the others tremble in fear. She then asks if he is a god, but Joshua replies he couldn't have done it without all of their help. After that, he says they should now be able to sleep soundly at night, and meanwhile, Met returns from hunt saying they caught more than they can eat. Later, Met begins to cook. She gossips how she never thought they would be able to hunt so many boars, and Illya mentions that it's all thanks to Joshua. Met also hails Joshua and adds that the village being surrounded by sturdy fence, it feels like dream, and Illya responds affirmatively saying that it's just like a dream. Then Illya steps outside and tells Joshua to let her know if he needs anything, to which he replies, sure, whereas Met says in excitement that it's her turn to take care of Joshua. After she leaves, Joshua compliments Met's cooking and asks if her parents taught her, to which she replies affirmatively that her mom taught her a lot about cooking. Judging by the way she cooks, Joshua tells her that she has nice parents, and Met affirms that she learned a lot from them. She continues that it's thanks to her parents and Illya's predecessor that she is here today, whereas Joshua asks if the previous chief was a great one too. She replies of course, since the chief faced those orcs, and adds that it was about 10 years ago that a group of orcs came and said they defeated humans and laid claim to their territory. Hearing that, Joshua thinks that 10 years ago was when the human allied forces lost the first great battle, and the Demon King's army increased their sphere of influence farther up north. The humans suffered heavy casualties, but he didn't know the demons were also affected. On the other side, Met tells him a past incident where one day she invited other kids and Illya to the plains in the south to play, and it was there that some particularly large orcs appeared. She continues that their horns were valuable to them, so the chief had talked to the orcs and bartered a truce, but they went back on their words. She further adds that they had their eyes on Illya's horn, which was long even for their kind, and tried to take it from her. During that incident, Illya tried to send the kids back to the village, whereas Met ambushed one of the orcs. But she was unsuccessful in her attempt, and as she was about to be attacked, Illya hurled a rock at the orc's face to drive their attention away. After that, the orc grabbed her horn saying that she has done it now, and snapped it from her head in front of Met. Then as Met was wallowing in despair, her mom suddenly ambushed the orc using a spear. Afterwards, Met sees that both of her parents came to their rescue and they instructed her to run away with Illya. She continues that they escaped back to the village while her parents held them back, and when she looked back, only their heads were left. She also mentions Illya bowed and cried that she was sorry when it was her fault for inviting them to play, but Joshua says it was the orcs' fault, and that they all did nothing wrong. Afterwards, the chief went to meet with the orcs alone, and returned holding Illya's horn, but the chief's own horn and arm were gone. Met then mentions how the chief died telling Illya to protect everyone, and points that the grave is in the center of the village, but she gets shocked as she sees something being built on it. She then asks if he don't think he went too far, but he replies he built it only because Illya said the gods would also be pleased. Hearing it, she says it's true that the chief would be happy with it, and Illya is not the type of person to be concerned about such things. Joshua then asks what is Illya doing right now, and she answers that she is probably practicing using the bow he made her this morning. Furthermore, Met mentions how she said she will be able to protect everyone with it, and that she believes him when he said she had talent. Joshua replies that he meant it, as he believes she might have a crest that improves her ability to handle weapons, judging by how she handled the bow and axe. Then he asks if she knows what Illya's crest is, to which she replies that it's Hanya, and there is no one else in their tribe with the same crest. But she mentions they were saying it must be a good crest, and that it might be a gentle crest that heal others. Joshua replies that it is possible, while Met says that Illya is so kind that she pushes herself too much. She also mentions how even yesterday when he saved her, she was acting as a decoy to save a demon child. She further says that Illya's acts are noble, but since she is their chief, she doesn't want her to endanger herself anymore. At that, Joshua says that he will do his best too, and hearing that, Met thanks him saying that it is reassuring to hear. Then suddenly, Met tells everyone she has an announcement to make, that she has decided to marry Joshua. Hearing that, Joshua becomes shocked and shouts what she is talking about. He wonders if she is trying to get him to stay here forever by having a family, and tells her that she doesn't need to do that, since he will stay in this village for a while. Suddenly, Joshua feels shivering sensation and notices it is Illya, as she scolds Met that she has gone too far. Then Met tries to explain to Illya how Joshua will never leave the village and asks if she doesn't want Joshua to stay in the village too. In response, Illya loudly says that she will marry Joshua with a flustered face. Then both of them argue to marry Joshua, and he tries to tell them that he doesn't need to get married, and he will stay in the village for a while. But none of them paid any attention to his words, so he decided to go to sleep. The next morning, Joshua wakes up and finds that both Illya and Met were sleeping beside him again while hugging him. Afterwards, Illya asks what are his plans for today, to which Joshua begins to think how he already made most of the important stuff, but there are still a mountain of problems with the village. He wants to make more tools, but he needs iron for that, so he calls Illya and Met, and asks if there are any places around there with lots of reddish-brown rocks or stones that shines like metal. Illya responds that she sees small ones rolling about sometimes, but she doesn't see a lot of them in the plains or forest nearby. However, she mentions at the foot of a mountain in a forest a little to the southwest, there is a cave called the Asura Cave, and Joshua asks if they would be able to get in. She replies that it's now a home to bats, and no one has gone near it for over a century, to which Joshua says that they might be able to exterminate them if there are only a few. Then Illya tells Joshua that she will take him there, but Met suddenly interrupts them, saying she will guide him there. She requests Illya to stay in the village, while Joshua thinks that she doesn't want to put Illya in danger. Then Illya glances at Joshua, and he tells her that it's fine and everyone will be worried if something happens to the chief, whereas Met requests her to trust her, since even Joshua is saying so. Afterwards, Illya says she will comply since she insists, and Met thanks her. Then Joshua mentions they will make a quick inspection and be right back, and Illya tells them to be careful with a smile. A while later, Joshua and Met reach the location of the Asura Cave, whereas Met remains tensed. Met goes forward saying that she will go in and exterminate, and seeing that, Joshua tells her to wait. He mentions that bats may be weak, but they are dangerous because she might get sick if she gets bitten, so they should see how things are inside first. Then he crafts a torch and hands it over to Met, telling her to throw that in. She then asks if it's a torch, and he affirms that they will light it up and throw it inside. He also adds that if there is a large number of bats, they will be surprised and come out, to which Met responds she got it, as she throws the torch. After she throws the torch, Joshua hears splashing sounds, and wonders if there is a pool of water inside, so he proposed that they should hide in the bushes for now. Then as they hide in the bushes, the splashing noise gets closer, and a while later, Met notices something coming out of the cave which makes her startled. She then yells, "What is that?" to which Joshua says that it's a dust slime, and adds that it's a mutant species. He continues that it's a monster that absorbs everything it sees, and unlike regular slimes, it can even dissolve metals and rocks. It's not that strong, but it's a pain to deal with, whereas Met says they might be able to defeat it with enough people. But upon hearing Joshua saying it's not that strong, she suddenly gets up and claims she can take it. Then she dashes forward saying there is no need for Illya's help. But Joshua tries to warn her saying she can't use a weapon. Afterwards, she stabs the slime using her spear, but she was left speechless as the slime suddenly started to suck her weapon. Then Joshua calls Met and tells her to let go of her spear, but she refuses to let go since he made this for her. In the next moment, the slime tosses her in the ground, and in the meantime, Joshua conjures a magic shield to reduce the impact of her landing. Then he crafts a wall in front of the dusty slime and retreats from the scene, while carrying Met like a princess. Afterwards, as they were running away from the slime, he asks if she is okay and she apologizes to him. He notices that the slime prefers moving targets, and seeing that, he wonders if he should put Met down and fight it, but someone passes him by. He turns back and gets shocked to see that it's Illya, whereas Illya takes her stance before the slime in an angered state, and destroys it using her axe. Joshua was surprised seeing Illya destroy the slime in an instant, using the ordinary axe he made the previous day. He wonders that how many times she swung it in that moment. In the meantime, the villagers arrive at the scene and chatters about how fast Illya was for them to catch up. Then Met apologizes to Illya, but she tells her not worry about it. Moreover, she says she knew Met was looking out for her, but she makes it clear that it's her role to protect everyone, and that's what she lives for. Hearing that, Met clenches her fist and tells her in a teary state that she is going to get strong enough to protect her and everyone else. At that, Illya replies that she is counting on it, while Joshua learns that both Illya and Met treasure each other, which is why they are overly worried about each other. Then looking at both of them, Joshua smiles and thinks how handful these two are. After that, Illya starts lecturing Met, telling her to prioritize her own safety and make sure to follow what Joshua says, and also adds she getting hurt is one thing, but she can't stand if anything happened to him. Then Met apologizes to Joshua for being rash in a depressed tone, but Joshua replies that it was his fault for underestimating its strength. Afterwards, Illya tells her to rest since she knows she hurt her hip when she was hurled, whereas Joshua says he is thinking of mining with the other demons and suggests Met to go back to the village. Met then says she will follow their suggestion, and after settling the matter, Joshua says he will take the dust slime as well, whereas Illya asks what he is going to use it for. He explains that dust slime jelly is strong against shock, so it can be used for armor, and also, he pulls out a strange stone while saying this is a pretty big one. Then he explains to them that it is a magic stone and that they are materials that monsters store in their bodies. He continues that they vary in size and color depending on the monster, and some don't have one, whereas tools and weapons made with these gain some kind of power. Then, judging by the pale green color, he says that these are beneficial for wind attribute magic, and adds this is a nice one. After that, Joshua instructs everyone to go inside, since there shouldn't be any animals inside because of the dust slime. And meanwhile, Illya notices that something in the cave and asks Joshua about what those are. He replies that they are ordinary slimes, while thinking that one of them might have mutated into the dust slime. Then Wiz suddenly steps inside the cave and starts hopping and bouncing with the other slimes, leaving Illya and Joshua confused. Joshua then asks if he was talking to them and thanks him for the help. Afterwards, Joshua mentions that the Aster cave should be safe now and that they should move forward. After reaching the innermost part of the cave, Joshua notices that the walls are shining purple, and Illya mentions that people of the past named this the Aster cave because it looked like purple flowers were blooming on the walls. Then he crafts an ice axe and says that he will look into it. Joshua then starts mining, but the people were concerned as he seemed distressed about something. While grabbing a chunk of iron, Joshua says in surprise that this is not just any iron, but it's violet iron. Illya and Met didn't know what violet iron was, so Joshua describes that it's a metal over 3 times as hard as regular iron. He then continued to yap about the benefits of violet iron, whereas others couldn't follow him. Seeing their confused expressions, Joshua makes it simple by saying that it's a good metal, and that they can make good weapons and armor with it. He adds that he will make pickaxes for everyone and tells them to do their best with mining. Then they keep mining and transporting violet iron to the village back and forth, and a while later, they arrive at the village and one of the villagers excitedly tells them to look at how much they got. At that, Illya comments they gathered a lot, whereas Joshua excitedly says they don't need to worry about running out with that much. Then as he crafts various tools for the villagers, he says he can make gathering tools like axes and pickaxes, as well as cooking utensils like pots. After that, one of the villagers asks Joshua if he can make weapons as well, and he replies of course. Hearing that, Joshua gets an idea, and in the meantime, Illya walks around the village as she glances over the chattering villagers. Then she approaches Joshua to ask if he is still making things for them, and Joshua says that it's perfect timing since he is making something for her. He then hands her a weapon, and after unsheathing the weapon, she asks what that is. Joshua replies that when he was making weapons in bulk the previous day, he looked at cloth paintings with records of the village, because he thought demon weapons would make a good reference. He continues that a katana was depicted on there, and it looked difficult to wield because of how long it is, but he thought she might be able to use it just like her ancestors. At that, Illya responds that it is the same as what's drawn there, but she asks why he chose her. Joshua replies that she said she wanted to protect everyone after she defeated the dust slime, so that's why he thought he would make her a weapon. Hearing that, Illya thanks Joshua and tells him with a smile that she will cherish it. Then Joshua says she can feel free to tell him if she needs anything to be made, but he suddenly flinches as Met dreadfully stares at him. Then she shouts what that is and that she wants one too, whereas Joshua mentions it's called a katana and adds he will make her one right now. After that, Illya asks how could they ever repay his kindness, but Joshua responds that they are giving him food and a place to sleep, so there is no need for them to think they owe him something special. And besides, he wants to make this village a safer and more prosperous place. Hearing that, Illya thanks him. Then he thinks he needs to solve the 3 problems it has, and for that, the first is safety, for which he wants the houses to be made out of iron teak so that they can withstand attacks from boars and slave hunters. The second is food, as right now they are depending on hunting and gathering meat and berries, but that won't last forever, so the best way to ensure a stable food supply would be through agriculture. The last is sanitation since it would make them recover from injuries faster and prevent the spread of diseases. Although demons have a culture of washing their bodies and hands with water, they go all the way to the river every time to draw water. That's why he wants to build some kind of water supply so they can use it more frequently, and for that, he will need a quarry and eventually, he wants to make washrooms and baths as well. For the sake of the demons who are happy with what he makes, he wants to make their village safe and prosperous. Then outside the village, some wolves make howling sounds, whereas everyone inside the village becomes alerted by it. Hearing that, Joshua questions what that cry is and Illya speculates that it's coming from the north. He then senses that it's close, so he orders Met to tell the demons to be on guard right away, and ask the ones who are skilled at using a bow or crossbow to head towards the north. He tells Illya to also do the same thing, and after they arrive at the northern tower, the guards notify them that it's coming from the north, and that the cries are getting louder and louder. In a hurry, Joshua tells Met to prepare for battle and not attack until he gives her the signal. Then Met in a panicked state says she hears over 100 of footsteps, whereas Illya adds that they are approaching quickly. Afterward, as they were preparing behind the fences to engage in combat, Illya notices something and notifies Joshua that she sees them. Then Joshua becomes surprised as he looks outside to see many dog-like people and questions if they are werewolves. Werewolves are a human-wolf hybrid, and he heard they live primitive lives in remote regions because they are hated by humans. After he asks Illya about their wounds, she clenches her fist as she speculates that they might have been attacked by slave hunters. After that, as one of the werewolves approaches the fence, Met gives the order to aim. But Illya tells her to wait, as it looks like the wolf wants to say something. She then takes a closer look and recognizes that wolf as the one that got caught when she was attacked by the slave hunters. The wolf introduces herself as Merc and requests to let them through, saying that they just want passage and nothing else. Illya grants them the access and says that they have no intention of fighting them either, but asks what happened to them. Merc replies that they were attacked by humans during the day. She is about to say that they are still in danger, but she flinches as the sounds of footsteps were getting closer. Illya then quickly shouts at Met to let them into the village first, to which she replies all right. Afterward, the guards open the northern gate, and following that, all the werewolves begin to move inside the village. After everyone was inside the fences, someone from the outside shouts, "Get them all." Then they see a horde of slave hunters approaching their village while dragging the werewolves they caught, and commenting horrible things about them. After that, the slave hunters suddenly halt as they become surprised to see a fortress in front of them. Joshua thought it would be nice if they could leave now, but since they were holding werewolves captive, he couldn't let them go like that. Then he asks Met if everyone could target just the slave hunters, and she replies got it. Afterward, she orders the archers not to hit the werewolves, and adds that they don't have to fire if they are not confident enough. Then they start firing their arrows, and the slave hunters start panicking as many of their brethren begin to fall. One of the slave hunters shouts that they are humans, and that they have no interest in attacking the fortress, as they are just after the demi-humans. Joshua shouts back at them that they are demi-humans too, and demands to release the werewolves at once. Hearing that, the slave hunters become surprised and chatter about how they found an abandoned fortress and made it their base. Then they issue a retreat, and tells everyone to use the werewolves as shields and pull back. At that, Met shouts that they are cowards, but Joshua tells her to wait. Then as Joshua was about to give an order to surround them, Illya suddenly traverses the fence, and makes everyone surprised. After that, she dashes towards the slave hunters with extreme mobility, whereas the slave hunters question who she is. Then she firmly grips her katana and instantly slashes two of the slave hunters in her path. As the slave hunters were being defeated, one of them questions what is going on, and while grabbing a werewolf closer to him, he asks who she is. Illya then tells him that if they release them, she will at least spare their lives. Hearing that, the slave hunter asks if that is what she wants, to which she replies yes. Then Illya tells him to hand over the werewolves. He tells her to stop right there. He then threatens her to go back inside the fortress while pointing his sword at the hostage. But suddenly he freezes in fear as Illya menacingly looks at him. Illya then swiftly slashes his arm off, and the slave hunter lets go of the werewolf and tries to run away. Then as Illya goes after the hunter, Joshua shouts at her that it's enough, and it's dangerous to chase them any further. Illya stops from hearing Joshua's voice, and then everyone behind her starts cheering in victory against the slave hunters. After that, Met orders everyone to let the wounded rest near the campfire, and treat the severely injured with Joshua's bandages. She also tells them to leave the equipment they recovered from the humans in one place, whereas in a corner, Merc expresses her gratitude to both Joshua and Illya, while bowing her head. She then properly introduces herself as the daughter of the Meritis tribe's chief, Merc, and meanwhile, Illya introduces herself as the chief of the village. Hearing that, Merc bows her head and says that her name is Merc in a formal tone, but Illya tells her not to be so formal and adds that she can just call her Illya. At that, Merc replies okay and addresses her as Illya. Then Illya asks if they all came from the northern mountains, to which Merc nods her head. She then mentions that they lived in a cave at the foot of a mountain, but recently, humans have been appearing. She also says that there were particularly many yesterday, so they all ran away, whereas Joshua asks if they are all the ones that chased them. In response, she speculates that there could still be a lot more, and mentions how some of them even used fire. Joshua was confused about what she meant by fire, so she explains that they shoot large flames from their hands. Hearing that, Joshua becomes certain that they are fire mages and thinks about reinforcing their defenses by replacing wooden fences with stone walls. Joshua reconfirms with Merc if they met before, and Merc affirmatively responds that he was with Illya before too. Then Joshua talks with Merc about how she really was the one caught by the slave hunters, but seeing them, Met eavesdrops on their conversation and angrily asks if they came here to set the slave hunters on them. At that, Illya shouts at Met and says that Merc didn't know where she was to begin with, but Merc negatively responds that she traced her scent. She adds that she thought he would save them like he did back then. They really should have sought help earlier. After that, Merc requests Joshua to help them, whereas Illya happily responds that they should all help one another in times of need, and tells Merc to let them help. Then Met in an angry tone asks what is it that they want, to which Merc replies that they want them to let them stay here for a while, and in return, they will do whatever they say, and everyone except the children will fight alongside them. Hearing that, Met glares at Merc and asks if she means that, whereas Joshua tries to calm her down by saying that the slave hunters are also targeting demons, so they need to cooperate and get through this together. Hearing him, Met responds that he is right, and quotes that the enemy of an enemy is a friend, and she will let the others know. Before departing, she says that she will leave the guards in place and send everyone else home for today, whereas Joshua says he will get them to prepare food and a place to sleep for the werewolves. After that, Illya grabs Merc's attention by telling her to rest for today, since she is covered in wounds, and in response she thanks her. A while later, when everyone goes to sleep, Illya looks at Merc and says that she is still a child, and Joshua tells to let her sleep, since she must have been tired. He also tells Illya to rest too, and mentions that he will sleep after he checks out the weapons and armor they retrieved from the slave hunters. Suddenly, one of the villagers informs Joshua that they finished gathering them and put them near the gate. Joshua then looks at the pile of weapons and armor, and when he takes up a piece of armor, he wonders if the seal that is etched into the armor is from Cortesia Company. The Cortesia Company is a giant company that engages in illegal drugs and slave trades, and judging by the large number of slave hunters, Joshua believes that they must be all from the Cortesia Company. And the fire mage from the company is likely to be considerably skilled as well, so he thinks about fortifying their defenses quickly, since if they don't stop the slave hunters, the same thing will happen again. The next morning, Joshua feels something nice and soft on his belly and thinks about how he could pet it forever. He then suddenly wakes up as he could feel something off, and then he becomes surprised as someone unfamiliar was sleeping on top of him. He wonders who she is. She rises up from sleep and wishes good morning to Joshua. Judging by her voice, Joshua asks if she is Merc and she affirmatively responds that it's her. Then he wishes her good morning and adds that she knows his name, to which she responds affirmatively. She then mentions that Illya told her, whereas Joshua wonders in confusion when she got beside him. Afterward, Illya also wakes up and wishes him good morning, and in the meantime, Merc looks at Met's sleeping face. A while later, they all gather in an empty space, whereas Joshua thinks about the mention of fire mages among the slave hunters that attacked the previous day. He believes that depending on how skilled they are, the log fence they have right now might not be enough. They needed to gather construction materials that were strong against fire. So Joshua asks Merc if she has seen bare rocky ground nearby, without any grass or trees growing. Merc then asks if he means a rugged and cool place like her mountain cave, to which Joshua replies yes. Then she mentions a place across the river to the east, but Joshua feels uneasy to know that it's across the river. The East River is wide and flows downstream, so he asks if there is any other way across, since crossing it on foot is dangerous. Hearing that, Met excitedly asks Joshua if he wants her to give him a piggyback ride, to which Joshua responds that it's not impossible. But he mentions that there might be aquatic monsters in the river, so they should go check out the river first. Whereas Illya asks if they will be heading to the other side of the river today. Joshua replies yes, and meanwhile, Merc tells them that she will be their guide. Then she warns them to be careful since there are a lot of big boars on the way, so Illya says that in that case, she will go as well. At that, Met responds she wants to go too, if it is an unfamiliar land, whereas Joshua responds that it's reassuring to have them with him. He continues that he will make armor for Illya while he is at it. After that, as they were on their way, Joshua tells Merc that he has a favor to ask, to which she replies that the werewolves and she will do anything they can. Then he brings out a chunk of clay from his extra dimension and asks if she could find a place where that is buried. A while later, she locates the place and mentions that a lot is buried in there. Joshua then summons a shovel and replies all right. After a bit of digging, Joshua tells her that she was right and that he didn't think they would find it so easily. Then Merc mentions the clay being buried in another spot and asks what it can be used for. To give an example, Joshua begins to craft something by sending the clay to a magic workshop, shaping and heating it with fire, and cooling that down by pouring water into it. Then a clay pot appears in his hand, and he tells her the shape is more complex than the ones made with wood. He also mentions that this can be used to make tiles and bricks, to which Illya responds that he really does know how to make anything, and that she will tell the villagers to dig up some clay some other time. Joshua thanks her and mentions they should head across the river now. A while later, they arrive at the shore of the river and Illya becomes surprised to see how wide the river is. To solve the problem, Joshua says he will build a bridge, and suddenly, a bridge appears on top of the river and it surprises both Illya and Met. Then as he continues to build the bridge, Illya comments that they won't get wet this way, whereas Joshua adds that they won't be swept away either. After that, he asks Merc how they cross the river, to which she replies that there is a place to the north where the river is narrow. There she was able to cross it by hopping from rock to rock. Afterward, Met exclaims that the wind feels nice, whereas Illya says that the sound of the river is nice as well. Met on the other hand sniffs the air and says that she can smell the mountains to the north, whereas Joshua looks at her and wonders if he can do something to heal them, since Merc and the other werewolves were hurt from what happened the previous day. But they are also in danger right now, so he first needs to get rocks for the sake of the village. After traversing the river, they walk quite a distance, and a while later, Merc informs Joshua that the place is somewhere over there. Then after they reach their destination, Joshua notices signs of rocks being cut off here and there, and wonders if someone used that place as a quarry. Afterwards, he asks Merc if boars were the only creatures she saw, and she positively replies that it was mostly boars. She also adds that she tends to avoid this place since they are big and strong, so Joshua asks if that really is the case. Then Joshua says that they haven't seen any beasts coming at them so far, whereas Met mentions there being only small animals like rabbits and birds. He conjures a magic on his hand since he wants to try mining the rocks. Illya asks what that is, so Joshua replies that it's drilling magic that combines wind and fire magic, and it's suitable for cutting rocks. Joshua then proceeds to cut the rocks using his drilling magic. Illya suddenly flinches as she hears a rumbling sound nearby. After that, everyone looks back in surprise and gets confused to see the rocks coming together in the center. Then Joshua shouts that it's a golem, as he dreadfully looks at the gigantic humanoid-shaped rock. Illya then quickly dashes at the golem in an attempt to attack it, but Joshua tells her to wait. He informs her that the golem is really tough, but she slashes its leg anyway. And when she looks back to see the golem attempting to attack her, she dodges it in the nick of time. After dodging the attack, she becomes surprised as she sees that the leg of the golem that she slashed is reforming. Afterward, she apologizes for acting on her own and adds that it looks like slashing doesn't work. Joshua asks if she can see the stone shining reddish-black in the center, and mentions if she doesn't destroy it, the golem can keep reforming its body with rocks forever. Suddenly, Joshua notices the golem throwing rocks at them, so he instructs everyone to run. He tells Illya and Met that he will expose the reddish-black stone and asks if they can destroy it. At that, Illya glances at Met and she nods her head. Then they both take their stances with their weapons and reply, "Understood." Afterwards, Joshua tells Merc to focus on dodging and she replies not to worry about her, as dodging is easy. Then Joshua dashes toward the golem alone, and seeing him, Illya shouts that it's too dangerous. Joshua reassures her saying that it's alright, since he is just the guy for the job. After that, the golem pulls a bunch of rocks towards it and hurls them at Joshua, but he moves his hand towards the rocks and absorbs them using his skill. And since even the golem's body is inorganic rock, he absorbs a portion of its body and makes it surprised. Then he notices the golem collecting rocks to fill in the arm that's gone, but the rate at which he can absorb the rocks is faster. After absorbing its body for the second time, he signals the two of them to attack, and Met, while bashing the golem using her mace, says that as long as she has her metal rod, there is nothing she can't break. After that, Met calls Illya, and using her katana, she slashes the golem in half, along with the core. After that, Joshua catches the core of the golem that was spilt in half by Illya's katana. Then Illya comes running and asks if he is okay, and Joshua replies he's okay, and adds that they did excellent work. At that, Illya says he did most of the work, but Joshua responds that he was referring to something else. He then shows her the golem's puppet stone and mentions that they are fragile, so they mostly crumble after the golem is taken down. Then Met, while staring at the stone, says that it's split right down the middle, whereas Joshua mentions that they can still use it as a puppet stone and that they can make 2 of them. Hearing that, Illya asks if they won't attack again if he does that, but Joshua mentions that puppets follow the orders of whoever's name is engraved on the puppet stones. He also mentions that even if they were previously owned, they can just overwrite them. And hearing that, Illya says that she finds it hard to believe, but she is glad they were able to help. Then Joshua says he try making one right away, and after he utters the words, "Craft, golem," a huge golem appears out of nowhere. In shock, Illya says he can make anything, and even living beings, but Joshua tells her that he doesn't know if golems are living things. Then Joshua asks the golem if it can cut a stone in a specific proportion, and it nods its head. After that, Illya and Met become speechless as the golem lifts a huge rock with ease. Then Met lifts a similar size of boulder, saying that she can lift that much as well, but the golem takes that boulder off from her with one hand and she comments that even she can't lift that with one arm. Afterwards, Joshua glances at the golem and says that they got themselves a dependable partner. Moving forward, the guards at the village announces to everyone that they got trouble, and while dreadfully pointing towards the golem, they question what that giant creature is. Met then loudly tells everyone to relax and mentions that it's a golem. She further says that it's their new friend that Joshua made, and the villagers chatters how awesome and huge it is. After that, Illya asks what he is going to do with those rocks, to which he replies that he will build a wall for the village, but it will take some time before they have enough. Then he smiles and says that they should first strengthen the north gate, which is vulnerable. A while later, Illya and Met is left astounded, as Joshua builds a massive stone wall at the northern side. Illya then mentions that this is the biggest thing that he have made thus far, whereas Joshua says he never thought he could make it this big either. He continues that they should start by checking the sturdiness. Met tells him to leave it to her with the mace in her hand, but Joshua tells her not to do that. He mentions that the wall will collapse with her strength, and hearing that, Met becomes depressed. Then as the others were checking the strength of the gate, Joshua says that it seems like the construction will move forward in no time. He is also worried about the fire mages that Merc mentioned, so he says that they need to rebuild the walls with stone fast. After that, with the help of the golem, he begins to build stone walls by dismantling the old wooden fences simultaneously. While he was building, Met and the others hops inside one of the walls in fascination. But afterwards, they get scolded by Illya, and Joshua smiles as he looks at them. A while later, Joshua speculates that they will be done rebuilding the north wall by tomorrow, and thinks about using the logs they were using for the fence to rebuild new sturdy houses. Then suddenly, Met calls Joshua and asks if he has seen Merc. He replies that he hasn't seen her since this morning, and Met says that she was just thinking of preparing the meal with her. Joshua then monologues how Met wasn't too fond of werewolves at first, but she started caring for them after seeing how they work and how humble they are, so this is her way of showing concern. Afterwards, he says he will go look for her and tells her to get started on cooking, whereas Met responds that she is counting on him. After that, as Joshua walks through the village and looks for Merc, he encounters Illya on his way. He then asks if Merc is with her, to which she negatively replies that she hasn't seen her since this morning. Hearing that, he murmurs if she is out hunting somewhere, and Illya suggests that they should ask the werewolves over there. Joshua comments, "That's quite the load." After that, Joshua apologizes for disturbing the werewolf and asks if he has seen Mark, to which the werewolf replies that she was near the river on the south, saying she found some nice mushrooms, and left carrying a basket. Joshua says that he will go search the south for her, but the werewolf tells him to wait, and says that he has already done so much for them, so they can't trouble him even more than this. He also adds that there is no need to worry about her since she wants to thank demons by giving those mushrooms, but Illya yells saying that they don't need to thank them. Additionally, she requests them to feel free to rely on them more and that she doesn't want them to push themselves and lose their lives in the process. Hearing that, the werewolf says he understands and that he will tell the other werewolves, whereas Illya thanks him and tells him to leave Merc to them. Knowing that Merc is in the southern river, Joshua says that he hopes she didn't get swept down the river, and Illya says that they should hurry since it's almost sunset. After that, as they go to look for Merc, Illya says she hopes Merc is safe, but Joshua mentions that she is fast so she should be able to run away if something happens. Illya then says that she wonders why Merc is going out of her way to do this for them, to which Joshua says that he actually get how she feels. He mentions back when his hometown burned down, even though he was a child, he was coldly driven off for being useless no matter where he went, and they didn't let anyone they deemed worthless stay in their towns. Hearing that, Illya says he can't believe they drove off someone as kind as him, but Joshua replies, he really couldn't do anything. Joshua then continues that that's why he desperately taught himself swordsmanship and magic, and he believes Merc feels the same way right now, because she is desperate for their approval. At that, Illya says Merc might think they will drive them out if they don't contribute, and meanwhile, Joshua says some demon would actually do just that, but he believes the werewolves are working too hard right now just like she said earlier. Then Illya with a concerned look says that she wants to talk with Merc some more, while Joshua says with a smile that they should hurry back together and talk. A few moments later, they search and call for Merc near the shore of the river, but suddenly, Illya gets shocked and tells Joshua to look over there, and then they see that Merc is sitting alone on a rock in the middle of the river. Joshua then builds a bridge over the river to pick up Merc. He speculates that she couldn't go back because the water level rose. Afterwards, Merc lands on the bridge and asks Joshua and Illya why they are here with a confused look. Joshua then flinch as Illya menacingly addresses Merc and tells her that Joshua might not get angry because he is nice, but she will. Furthermore, she requests her not to go to dangerous places by herself anymore, but Merc replies there is nothing dangerous about that place since there's only mushroom. Illya then tells her not to do anything that will make them worry, and adds that they are friends living in the same village. At that, Merc replies that she will be careful, and also says that she won't make her worry like that ever again. Afterwards, Illya calls Merc and tells her that they helped them a bunch, and they wouldn't have found the clay if not for her. But Merc replies she just have a good sense of smell, and that she can't compete with demons when it comes to strength. Illya replies that it's fine, since werewolves have what demons don't, and demons also have what werewolves don't. They all can live happier lives if they work together, and hearing that, Joshua thinks how humans and monsters keep pushing the demis around. But the demis could prevent that if they combine their exceptional powers, just like what Illya has in mind. Merc responds that Illya is right, and if they help each other, they can live better lives. Then she shakes her hand with Illya, saying that she will be counting on them, while Illya says likewise. Afterwards, Joshua tells them that they should go home, since Med is waiting for them with good food, to which Merc replies that she will go back too. Merc shows him a basket saying that she gathered a lot of mushrooms, and Joshua identifies them as magic mushrooms called medishrooms. He explains that they can be used for food or medicine to heal wounds and diseases, and praises Merc for doing an excellent job. Then a while later, they return to the village, but looking at the food that was being prepared, Merc gives a concerning look. In the meantime, Joshua compliments Met that it looks good, but she replies that it thanks to the pot he made for them. On the contrary, Merc asks Met if she can cook, since she was cooking fruit and meat together, but Met becomes displeased hearing that. Joshua on the other hand thinks that Met seems like a bit of a klutz, but judging from the food she's made them so far, there is nothing to worry about. Afterwards, Illya tries the food Met made and compliments that she has outdone herself this time. Hearing Illya's positive review, Merc tries the food hesitantly, but she becomes surprised by the taste and compliments Met's cooking, saying that she never had anything that good before. Met then mentions about adding the mushrooms she gathered, and asks Merc what she thinks. She replies that they are juicy and that she never knew mushrooms could have that kind of texture. Met then gossips about how mushrooms are a success, but suddenly her attention turns to the people who were chatting noisily outside. She then asks one of the people what's the matter, and they point their finger on the rooftop, and tells her to look with a dreadful expression. After that, they look at the rooftop of one of the buildings and see a young girl standing on it. Merc comments that they might be after their food, but Met replies there is no way. Then suddenly, the mysterious girl's stomach starts growling and she becomes flustered from the embarrassment. Met then comes forward asking what she wants, but the girl starts falling from the roof. Seeing that, Joshua becomes concerned and orders Wiz to act as a cushion for her fall. After rescuing the girl, Illya notices that she passed out and that her wings are all tattered as well. On the other side, Joshua becomes confused and asks who in the world is this Demi. A few moments later, the girl regains consciousness and Joshua tells her not to speak. He then asks Illya if she can get her a bed, to which she responds that she will prepare one right away. In the meantime, Met gives her some soup to warm up her body, but after drinking the soup she falls unconscious. At that, Met becomes worried, but Joshua reassures her saying that she is just sleeping. Hearing him, Met replies that it's a relief, but looking at the girl, Met wonders who she is. Afterwards, Merc speculates that she might be a Tengu and mentions that they live at the foot of a small mountain to the west of where she lived. Joshua replies that he never heard of them and reconfirms if Merc said she is a demi from close by. After that, Illya notifies Joshua that the bed is ready, to which he thanks her. Then he says he will at least treat all the scratches on her before they carry her, as he casts healing magic. Afterwards, they put the girl on the bed and Joshua asks Wiz if he can look after her for a while. At the entrance of the room, everyone from the village were gathered out of curiosity, but Met turns their attention away by telling to go back to eating and mention that they have plenty of food for seconds. On the other hand, Merc compliments Joshua, saying he is amazing and that he can do anything. Joshua gets confused, so she explains that her mom said that it's amazing to be able to use more than one type of magic. Hearing that, Joshua mentions that they can normally use only one, but he was just using simple healing magic. Then he continues that he didn't know she knew about magic, to which she replies that she does, and she can also tells what animals can use magic. Afterwards, Joshua asks if she knows any magic herself, to which she replies that she can use wind magic. Merc then rises from her seat and casts her wind magic by putting her hands forward, but it just turned out to be a small gust. She then tells Joshua that it's only good enough to use it for play, and Joshua agrees that it's not enough to fight with. Then he asks if she knows what crests are, to which she replies that apparently her crest is white wolf, and she heard it's good for ice and healing. Hearing that, Joshua speculates that it might be a crest related to ice and healing magic. She might be able to use magic of those two attributes. He then asks if her mom taught her those two, but she replies it was just the wind magic, and she didn't know the other two. After that, Merc asks if he will teach her, to which he replies that it won't be hard if she already knows how to gather magical power. He tells her to try freezing the water in one of the buckets by visualizing freezing her target. He also tells her that it's easier if she had a magic wand to aim, so he crafts her a magic wand. Afterwards, Merc casts freeze magic on the bucket and receives words of praise from Joshua and Illya, as she was able to do it easily. Joshua then mentions if she trains more, she will be able to cool all sorts of things, and she replies that she appreciates it. She also says she will practice more too, so Joshua gets an idea and tells her that she will try using her magic to build new facilities. The next morning, as the Tengu girl was sleeping, Joshua takes Merc to some place and opens a door to a basement, saying that he asked the demons to dig a large hole for him. On his way, he explains that the walls inside are lined with stone and it's separated from the outside by a violent iron door. Afterwards, they reach the innermost section of the hole and Merc exclaims that it's an underground room. Joshua then asks if she can freeze the room's floor and walls for him, to which she asks if it's for practice. He replies that it's a part of it, but they are going to use this place to store frozen items, such as meat and fish, so they don't rot. Hearing that, Merc excitedly tells him to leave it to her, and he replies that he is counting on her. He also mentions that it's hard for him to freeze this kind of space, since he pretty much only know how to use crafting magic. Hearing that, Merc stares at him for a bit and says that it's weird, but Joshua tells her to practice hard. He continues that he will go construct the walls, to which Merc tells her to wait, and mentions that the Tengu from the previous day is kicking up a fuss outside. After that, they both emerge to the surface and Merc points him the place where the Tengu girl is. There he sees Illya telling the girl that she needs more rest, but the girl says that her body is fine now. The girl then continues that they already helped her so much, but Joshua from a corner apologizes for this, and says that she will just fall and injure herself again with her tattered wings. He adds that they should get to know themselves first and introduces himself as Joshua. The girl wasn't answering who she was, and seeing her, Joshua wonders if they were not allowed to interact with outsiders or something. Then with a flustered tone, she says that her name is Asura and she is a Tengu. Following that, Illya and Merc introduces themselves respectively and Joshua reminds her again that she can't fly with those wings. He then continues to say that he will make her a tool that will let her fly, and hearing that, all of them become speechless. Illya asks if he can even make wings, to which he replies that he can only make model birds and nothing sturdy like actual wings. After that, he activates his production magic and crafts a wand for Asura. Then he asks if she can use magic, but she was oblivious to it, so he tells her to imagine herself creating wind and chant wind, to which she replies okay. After chanting wind, Asura creates a strong gust of wind and makes everyone surprised. At that, Joshua says she should be able to fly plenty if she uses a wand, and hands her the wand he created. Upon receiving the wand, Merc notices that Asuha's wand contained a green stone on it unlike hers. Joshua explains that it's a magic stone that appeared when Illya and the others defeated the dust slime, and also mentions that green stone improves wind magic. Hearing that, Merc and Asura gets confused, and Joshua says that in other words, they can create strong winds, and asks if she can use it to fly, to which Asura replies that she will try. And after that, she chants wind magic and creates a strong gust. In the next moment, she finds herself floating using the wind, and in the meantime, everyone looks happy to see her that she is flying. Illya exclaims that she never thought the stone would be useful for something like that, and Joshua says that they have the magic stone to thank. But her own wind magic skills are also impressive. Then after landing on the ground, Asura thanks Joshua and says she can't accept something that amazing. But Joshua requests her to just take it and adds that it'll help compensate for her wings. Afterwards, he tells her that if she feels like she owes him, he would like the cooperation of the Tengu. Asura fidgets and says that she will do if there is something she can do for them all, to which Joshua says that there are some humans around here attacking the demis lately, and since Tengu can fly, they could help gather info for them. Hearing that, Asura replies info on humans, monsters, and the surroundings, that is something that they can do. But she wants to talk to everyone about it first, so Illya requests her to do that. Then Illya tells her that they'll also do what they can to help them all, and in reply, she requests her to rely on them if anything troubles her. She also requests her to watch put for bad humans, to which Asura nods her head and thanks her. Then Asura bows her head and says that no matter what the others in the tribe say, she will be back to repay them all, whereas Illya responds that she is always welcome there. Afterwards, Asura leaves their village using her newly found power, whereas Merc stares at them from behind and says that both Joshua and Illya are kind. Then Met suddenly arrives saying that they are too kind, but that's what she likes about them. She then reminds Illya that she had a favor to ask from Joshua, and hearing that, he asks what her favor is. Illya says that she was wondering if he could make her a flute, since hers is broke, and Joshua tells her that it's not a problem. Then he asks if she remembers the shape and what it was made of, and she replies that it was a long and thin wooden flute. At that, Joshua responds that he understands and crafts a flute, asking if it was like that. Then Illya thanks him, and Met says that she will practice since she doesn't know how to play. Afterwards, Met tells Illya to try playing it right away, and she replies okay. And when she was about to play the flute, Joshua thinks that Illya's flute playing will be nice and calming, and express her warm personality. But their expectations get shattered, as a hellish noise comes from the flute, as Illya was playing it. Unable to withstand it, Met yells at Illya to stop, and a while later, she stops playing the flute. Illya smiles and says that it's been a while since she last played, whereas Joshua and others were tattered by hearing the sound of her flute. Afterwards, Illya says that she will practice the flute as hard as Merc practiced magic, but Merc tells her not to do it. On the other side, Joshua says that they might be able to use it to intimidate the enemy, but Met says that it's not right. Then as Illya and Met was having their conversation, Joshua looks back. He sees how far Asura has flown, and assumes that she should be able to get home safely. After some time, Joshua with a smile on his face says nice, and they have made so much progress. He also says that the previous day it was the north side, and today they fortified all the walls up to the west. It's all thanks to the golems and slimes. Suddenly, Merc calls for Joshua in panic and mentions that there is smoke coming from the other side of the mountain up north. Afterwards, they climb up the wall to see the situation, and Joshua looks at the direction of the mountain and speculates that it might be where the Tengu lives. Then Merc in a concerned state asks if they were attacked like them, but Illya puts her hand on Merc's shoulder and reassures her saying that she will get everyone ready to take them in. Afterwards, Joshua tells Illya that he is counting on her, but in the next moment, he gets shocked to see that Asura and the other Tengu are flying in the air, and they all are covered in injuries. Then looking at their state, he makes a dreadful face and speculates that they were attacked by the slave hunters. Moving on, after the Tengu arrive at the village, Joshua asks Asura what happened, and tells her not to worry since they will take everyone in. Suddenly, Asura starts crying and says that their village was burned down. Afterwards, one of the Tengu glances at Joshua and freaks out since he is a human, and loudly yells that he is going to kill them all. Hearing that, all the Tengu start panicking and tries to run away, but Illya steps up and tells them that Joshua won't hurt them. Then they, mistaking Illya for another human, they freak out even more and asks why Asura brought them to a place with humans. Afterwards, as Illya wonders what they should do, Asura requests everyone to stop. She then loudly yells that these two saved her life, and they are different from those other humans. She also mentions how they welcomed them there, so hearing that, everyone calms down. The Tengu then apologizes to Illya, but she replies it's okay since they all must have been through a lot, and tells them to get some food and rest for now. They will also give those who are injured a place to sleep, and Merc tells them to leave the injuries to her, she will treat them. Then as the Tengu are being treated, Asura explains that about a third of them were able to get here, half of the others were captured, and the other half were burnt alive. Joshua asks what she meant by burnt, and in response, she explains that they were burnt by a giant flame-throwing human. Hearing that, Joshua identifies the perpetrator as a fire mage, and wonders if they are the same one that attacked Merc's village. Asura continues that the other humans couldn't hit them, even though there were many of them, but that man was exceptional, since he turned the forest where they live into ashes in an instant. At that, Joshua believes that the perpetrator to be someone who can use high-level magic if he can produce that much flame. Joshua asks if that man used any other kind of magic, to which Asura replies that it was just fire. She says that the perpetrator was around Joshua's height and was wearing a purple outfit, and he kept saying he's the fire god's child. Hearing that, Joshua remembers that there was someone who called himself Lit among Logue's cousins, and he was an honor student at Magic University with the flame deity crest. He asks if she knows anything else, to which she replies that the previous day, she passed through the western sky before going back to the village, because they already had friends who hadn't returned in several days. There was an open area in the forest that looked like a town for humans. There she saw their friends, as well as demons and werewolves being forced to work. Hearing that, Illya and Joshua get shocked, whereas Asura continues that she asked her father to team up with them all. But he said he wanted some time to think, and today, he was killed by those humans. Joshua then understands the context of what happened, and says the humans who attacked their village are from the town in the west, while speculating that it must be a base made by illegal slave traders. Joshua believes that they might also be in danger if they don't come up with a plan, and assumes that they might already know about their place too, and send many slave hunters their way in the future. Even if they are able to win the fight, they will suffer casualties, so Joshua thinks that they need to act quickly. After that, Joshua mentions Illya, Met, Merc, and Wiz, and says that they need to talk. After gathering at a place, Joshua briefs the information from Asura and explains that there's a chance that the slave hunters might come after them. Then as he continues to say that he wants to talk to them all about what to do if they attack, they all nod their heads and replies that they will fight them. Illya says she won't let them take anyone away, and never give anyone up either, not even if they're the same race as him. After that, Joshua says that he has a suggestion, and tells them that the odds will be against them if they wait for them, so they should make the first move. Hearing that, Met gets up from her seat in excitement, and says that his plan sounds good. She has been wanting to strike back at them for all they did to them. Joshua says that he gets how she feels, but breaking in right from the start would be dangerous, and their most important goal is to rescue the demis who are held captive at the base. So he suggests that they will reduce their numbers before breaking in, to which Mark asks if he is saying they will lure them out. Joshua agrees and says that after they lure them out, they will take them all out at once and attack the base. To do that, he asks Wiz if he can dig up some coal with the golems, instead of violet iron at the mines, and he responds with a bounce. Then after Wiz and the golems were gone, Illya asks what coal is, to which Joshua explains that it's a stone that burns well, and that they will use it as a trap. He tells Merc that he has a favor to ask, since werewolves are quick on their feet, and she replies that she will do anything. Everyone else wants to help out too. Joshua thanks her, and says that he wants her to lure the slave hunters out of the enemy base, and towards the front of the northern wall, while keeping her distance from them. He also asks Asura if she can tell Merc and the others about where the base is, and she replies okay. Afterwards, he tells them about how they can set traps if they can narrow down the direction they will come from. But Merc tells him not to worry and leave everything to them. Then he grabs Asura's attention, and mentions that there is one more thing he wants to ask her when she returns. He tells her that he just wants her to blow wind from atop the wall, and go see Met when she returns. Then after they were out, Met calls Joshua and asks if she is giving the orders. Joshua replies yes, and adds that this time he is going to be the decoy, so he wants her to take command. Hearing that, both Illya and Met become concerned, and afterwards, Illya shouts at Joshua to leave that role to her. Joshua denies and says that he has a hunch about something, and he will need to be upfront to take advantage of it. He continues that he wants her to stand by at the gate and charge right away when he gives her the signal. At that, Illya replies okay, and Joshua thanks her with a smile. He says that he will need Met to take command, and he wants her to give instructions in the right order. Hearing that, she replies that she will memorize the order somehow, but Joshua tells her not to sweat the small stuff, since he will also tell Wiz. After that, he proposed that they should prepare for battle, and they also need to set up arms on top of the tower. Since they were oblivious to what an arm was, he explains that arms are large weapons and crafts a ballista using his production magic. Met then comments that it looks like a crossbar on a stand, but Joshua explains that it is called ballista and they can shoot large arrows and rocks with it. Then she asks if she just have to fire away, but he replies no. He says that they are not using it until the very end, and after hearing stomping sounds, he notices that Wiz brought them the coal just in time. Afterwards, he puts finely ground coal and boar fat into a gunnysack and says that they will make large amounts of this and have the Tengu drop it on the enemies from the air. Then he tells Met to light the arrows on fire when they are done and attack the enemy's surroundings with bows and crossbows, and then he tells them to get ready for battle before Merc and the others come back. After that, as Joshua was instructing the demons on setting up traps for the enemy, he notices that Merc and the others were returning. After arriving, Merc tells Joshua that she brought the enemies and reports that there are 300 of them. Joshua tells them not to waste time and move out from the east and west gates with the other werewolves and demons and monitor the enemies from a distance. He also tells her to take down anyone that tries to run away and capture them if they stop resisting, to which she responds got it. Merc then asks if he going by himself, to which he replies affirmatively, but reassures them that he will be alright. Additionally, he says as another human, he should be the one to put an end to this. On the other side, the slave hunters in search of the demis marches towards the village, but they become surprised to see a wall in front of them. Then one of the slave traders assumes that they must have went in the wrong direction, but then a person in robes asks what he is doing. He then angrily asks if he is so stupid that he even managed to get them lost, but he replies no, while addressing the person in robe as Sir Burnish. After that, the slave hunter points his finger towards the wall and shouts that he knew this was the right place, as there was a werewolf up there. Then suddenly, Joshua arrives before the slave hunters and tells them that he wants to talk. Burnish then asks who he is and why there is a human there, and meanwhile, Joshua introduces himself and asks what he was doing all this time. Afterwards, Burnish recalls Joshua's name and says he saw him at Schwarberg, and mentions that he is Logue's apprentice with the magic engineer crest. Then Burnish asks if he remembers him, and arrogantly says that he let him sharpen his sword. Joshua replies that he doesn't remember him, and thinks that he knew it. He's Logue's relative, an honor student at a magic university, and a genius who can use fire magic called the Flame Deity. He tells him to stop slave hunting and go back to school right now, to which Burnish says that he do remember him. He adds that he knows magic engineers are the lowest of the low, and they can't get into any magic university. Then as Illya and the others sneak behind the bushes, Burnish continues to say that he knew Joshua is jealous of him, and that he can't blame him since he is the honor student at the Verso's Magic University. Hearing that, Joshua thinks that he and Logue are two peas in a pod, since they judge people by their crests, and asks why an honor student like him is doing something like slave hunting. He also asks if he doesn't know that hunting demis is forbidden by the temple, but Burnish replies that only goody two-shoes follow that rule. He also tells him not to get him wrong since he is not doing that for the money, but doing that because it's fun. Hearing that, Joshua comments that it's even worse, but Burnish replies he can't have this kind of fun in university. Then he addresses the werewolves and the flying demis, and says that his fire makes them all scream, which is thrilling to him. He guesses a talentless person like Joshua will never get to experience this kind of fun, and he is so glad he wasn't born trash like him. Joshua, on the contrary, says he would rather die than be someone like him, and hearing that, Burnish freezes. He then angrily asks Joshua if he wants to try dying, and adds that trash like him needs to be burned. He will turn him into ashes. On the other hand, Joshua feels relieved to know that he is easy to manipulate and tells him that he is the trash here. Burnish then tells him to shut up, and adds that he should be thankful because a lowlife like him gets to die from the magic of an acclaimed genius like him. After that, Burnish activates his god flame magic, but on the other hand, Joshua dreadfully looks at his high-level magic and wonders how many innocent demis were killed by it. Then Joshua addresses Burnish by his name and says, "Here's your payback." Afterwards, he summons powdered coals using his magic inventory and makes it rain over Burnish's flames. Meanwhile, Burnish recognizes what that powder is, as it was fueling his flames, so he yells at Joshua to stop. Then as he starts burning in his own flames, he screams in pain and orders the slave hunters to get it off. But Joshua on the other hand thinks that the fire won't go out easily since the ignited coal uses boar fat. Burnish yells in pain that he doesn't want to die like that and pleads for help, whereas Asura clenches her fist and watches him burn in satisfaction. Afterwards, the other slave hunters notice the sudden change in their surroundings and sees that the Tengu are dropping flammable powder on them. Frightened by the powder, they begin to run, but Met from the village commands the archers to fire their ignited arrows on the slave hunters. After firing the arrows, many of them begin to burn, and the rest of them tries to run to the forest to avoid catching fire. On their way, they encounter the werewolves who are hiding in the forest, and as they decide to kill them for blocking their path, Illya and her team emerges from the other side while subduing any stragglers. As the slave hunters were confused, Illya clenches her katana tightly and slashes two of them in an instant. Met on the other side gives order to open the gate and tells everyone to show Illya what they got. Then everyone engages in combat with the slave hunters, while Joshua supplies them with weapons and arrows using his production magic. Being overwhelmed by the demis, the slave hunters deem that the forest is no good, so they retreat towards the river bank. Afterwards, as the demons question and joy if they beat the humans, Met orders them not to let them escape, but Joshua stops her. He then says that he wants to interrogate them, so he tells her to catch them and bring them here. At that, Met nods her head saying she got it, and asks sarcastically if she just needs to capture them. Suddenly, Merc comes forward saying that Met might accidentally kill them, so she tells Joshua to leave this to them. Then as Met and Merc chases after the remaining slave hunters, while competing against each other, Asura grabs Joshua's attention and thanks him. She mentions that Burnish was the man who attacked their village, whereas Joshua says he is also glad that they were able to defeat him. Suddenly, the villagers in high spirits shouts that they should keep it up and attack their base, so that they can free their friends. Afterwards, the villagers ask Joshua about what they should do, but Joshua tells them that they shouldn't push themselves too hard. So far, they have devised tactics that don't put their allies' lives at risk, so Joshua believes if they invade and lose someone, everything would be for naught. After that, he suddenly gets the idea that they don't need to seize their base, as they just need to free the captured demis. Then after a while, Met brings back all the slave hunters who fled, and tells Joshua that they captured them like he asked. Joshua then crafts a mask for himself, and tells everyone to go along with what he say while wearing the mask. After that, Joshua asks how many men are there at their base, but they remain silent. Illya then intimidates one of the slave hunters by pointing her sword at his throat, and says that he has 10 seconds to answer her. Frightened by her actions, the soldier replies that there are about 50, and subsequently, all the other slave hunters shouts that he is not lying and begs to spare their lives. Joshua then grabs the attention of the werewolves and the Tengu, and tells them to follow the slave traders' lead and head towards their base up north. Then as they march towards the slave hunters' base, Joshua glances at all the uninjured allies and thinks that the numbers are on their side. Subsequently, Illya asks if he has some kind of plan, to which he tells her that they are going to free all her friends without letting anyone die. He asks Met if half of the soldiers could stay in the village, and he wants them all to protect the place in case anything happens. She replies it's an important role and she is sad that she can't go with them all, but she tells him to leave that place to her and wishes him good luck. Joshua then tells Met that he is counting on her, and afterwards, he tells everyone to follow him. Then as they were on their way, Merc notifies Joshua that they are almost at the humans' base, to which Joshua replies great. After that, Joshua says he will explain the plan to them first, so they gather in a circle. Illya asks what he has in mind, and he responds that they will just surround the fortress, that is it. He continues that they will just lay siege to them and not fight. But Merc says, even with him, that won't work. She tells him that they need to defeat the enemies before freeing their friends. They can easily defeat 50 people. But Joshua reminds her that they can also use the captives as hostages. Furthermore, he says that they don't know what the slave hunters will do if they don't leave them a way out, so that's why they should surround and negotiate with them. Then Illya says he will leave the strategizing to him, and she will do anything to avoid bloodshed. Joshua adds that they are in the perfect position to do just that, and then he calls Wiz to gather up the other slimes and hand the torches he made to everyone. He also tells the slimes to take 2 of the torches themselves, after they hand everyone 2 each. After everyone receives their torches, Joshua tells them to pass the fire he light around. When he finishes lighting the torches, he instructs the werewolves to surround the east to the north, and Tengu to fly above the fortress. He tells the demons to head from the south along with the captives, and mentions that he will have 1 captive come along with him. Then he tells Illya, Merc, and Asura to go with him, and while wearing his mask and creating 2 golems, he says they should go and negotiate. After that, at the slave hunter's base, one of the hunters glances outside the fort and reports that Mr. Burnish is coming back. However, the other hunter tells him that it's not Mr. Burnish, but an absurd number of torches. Subsequently, Illya starts playing her flute, and hearing the dreadful sound, the hunters exclaim that it's an enemy attack. The hunters then call for a higher-up named Kabus and make a racket inside their base. Judging by the havoc they were wrecking inside, Joshua says that it seems like they are shaken up, whereas Asura and Merc were worn out from the sound of the flute. Afterwards, Kabus comes out of the base asking who he is, and shouts whose army that is. Joshua replies he is a demi and mentions that they are the envoys of the Fendel Alliance. But on the contrary, hearing that Illya, as well as Asura and Merc, becomes surprised. Kabus then asks what the Fendel Alliance is, to which Joshua thinks that it's to be expected since it's a group name he just made up. He decided on the name, since they are from the state of Fendel, and tells him that they formed this alliance to fight against slave hunters. Afterward, he threatens to attack if they don't give back every last demi inside the fortress, but Kabus replies that it is ridiculous. Hearing that, Joshua asks what's so ridiculous, and if he knows just how many tribes they all attacked. Then he lifts his hand horizontally and continues that the ocean of fire that surrounds them is the flame of anger ablaze in their hearts. He also mentions how Burnish also got swallowed by their fire, to which Kabus asks what. After that, Joshua pushes the captive slave hunter forward, and he tells Kabus that Joshua is telling the truth, and mentions how Burnish and his soldiers were wiped out in under 10 minutes. Then he makes Kabus scared as he tells him that their fortress is surrounded by demis right now. Subsequently, Joshua asks Kabus by shouting if he will set everyone free and leave this land, or will he choose death. After that, Joshua adds that he will start by having their golems destroy the fortress gate. However, Kabus tells him to wait. Then he tells Joshua to give them some time, and hearing that, Joshua thinks that their demands are for them to leave this land and to free the slaves. In other words, they are not asking for money or goods. A wise decision would be to free the slaves and run away with their money and goods. A while later, Kabus states that they will comply with their demand, but Joshua will have to keep his word. Joshua, on the contrary, says that if they try to close the fortress gates or go behind their backs, they can kill them in an instant. Then he gives Illya the signal, and after receiving the signal, Illya tugs her bow and intimidates Kabus by shooting an arrow next to him. At that, Kabus tells them to stop and adds that they comply with all their demands. Afterward, he orders the soldiers to open the gates and free the slaves. A while later, when the demis get freed from the fortress, Joshua asks Illya and the others to go check if anyone is left inside the fortress, and she responds that she understood. After that, Joshua and the villagers begin to guide the freed demis, and in the meantime, Illya and the others conduct a search inside the slave hunter's fortress. After finishing their search, Illya comes outside and reports with a sad face that they freed everyone besides the ones who already died. Hearing that, Joshua replies that he would like to reclaim their remains, but it's almost dawn, whereas Illya suggests they withdraw since they have achieved more than enough. On the other hand, Kabus tries to run away with his belongings, and seeing him, Joshua shouts if he freed everyone. In a panic, Kabus replies that he freed everyone without a doubt, so Joshua tells them to leave the fortress immediately. At that, Kabus replies that they will leave and never come back, but Joshua intimidates them by saying that the demis aren't as foolish as them, so they will take their word for it. Then after all the soldiers retreat and Joshua's team was on their way back, Joshua asks Merc if anyone was following them, to which she replies that there is no one. Subsequently, she asks Joshua about the whole Fendel Alliance thing, to which he answers that he just made it up on the spot, since it makes them sound like a bigger opponent to the humans, and Illya says that it's exactly what they are if he meant an alliance of different species in Fendel. However, she asks if this is the end of their relationship now that they have driven out the slave hunters, even though it took so much for them to become a great power. At that, Merc and Asura glance at each other and reply to Illya that they will always be with them all if she is okay with that, and they also want to be friends as well if possible. Likewise, Joshua says he believes all demis should join forces and that they should expand the Fendel alliance. Hearing them, Illya replies affirmatively and suggests they keep working together. She adds that she thinks the alliance needs a representative, but Joshua freezes upon hearing it. Then as they stare at Joshua, he starts sweating and tells them that he is just a guest. However, Illya mentions how that whole plan was successful thanks to him and adds that they lack too much knowledge about combat and negotiation. Asura also says that she thinks he should be the leader, and Merc also approves of him since he brought this up first as well. Joshua, on the contrary, couldn't imagine everyone accepting him as a leader since he is a human, but thinking how it would be easier to advise everyone, he complies with their suggestion to become the leader. Then after he finishes yapping about the conditions they need to follow for him to be the leader, Illya says he will be the leader of the Fendel alliance starting today with a smile, and everyone starts cheering for him. A while later, they reach the village and Met joyously approaches them by saying that they must have successfully freed them. At that, Joshua replies in the affirmative and adds that they freed them without losing a single life. Then he asks about the smoke coming from the distance and she replies that they figured everyone would be hungry, so they made tons of good food. Joshua thinks they must be hungry from being kept in poor conditions and says that even he hadn't thought of that. Met responds of course and adds that it's because she is his wife. She continues that a couple should help out each other, but Joshua remains confused. Joshua asks when she is his wife, to which she replies that she was going to tell him when he came back, and being frank with one another is a virtue of them demons. After that, as she was about to proclaim to everyone that she is Joshua's wife, Illya menacingly stares at her and states that she didn't think she would try to get ahead of her in front of all those people. Illya further says that she thought she was simple-minded like an armored boar, but seemingly she is cleverer than expected. Hearing that, Met yells she was just stating the facts, and declares that Joshua is going to become her good husband. Illya then suddenly grabs Joshua's hand and says that today is a memorable day when everyone was freed, so why don't they should have their wedding ceremony, as she proposes him to marry her. Afterward, both Illya and Met start arguing over who Joshua will marry, but Joshua on the contrary says that he is not marrying anyone yet. Then he becomes more confused as Merc instantaneously rubs his feet and proclaims that she is his wife. At that, the three of them decide to have a competition to slay the most boars, but Asura interrupts them, saying that they should eat since everyone worked hard to make food for them. She further states that Joshua must be tired as well, but Illya asks if she is trying to get close to him by acting like the only sensible one. Then she replies that she doesn't even have to do that, and while sticking close to Joshua, she says that the best fit for Joshua is her. As the four of them were fighting over Joshua, the villagers invited him to eat. Then looking at how the representatives of demons, werewolves, and Tengu were at odds with each other, he prays that the Fendel alliance doesn't fall apart. After a while, Illya asks one of the villagers where Joshua went, and he replies that Joshua already finished his meal and went south of the village. On the other side, Joshua thinks that now that they have freed the demis and have more Tengu, the houses in the village won't be enough, as he needed to build more as soon as possible. Later, he finishes building the 200th house and states that he thinks it will be enough. He thinks with that many houses, everyone should be able to sleep soundly at night. And on the other side, Illya approaches him saying that she didn't think he could build that many houses in just a few hours. After that, she smiles and praises him for doing great work while holding a towel. At that, Joshua thanks her and receives the towel from her to wipe off his sweat. Then Joshua notices the villagers carrying logs for building the houses and apologizes for making them help. Illya, however, tells him not to be apologetic and mentions that they're doing that on their own accord so that they can keep up with him. Hearing that, Joshua thinks about how he wasn't praised by or asked to cooperate with anyone back when he was in the order, and maybe that's why he feels so satisfied right now. Illya says that while today might be a joyful day for celebrating everyone's liberation, they still can't let their guard down, to which Joshua says that she is right. Then he adds that there is a limit to how much food they can get from hunting and gathering, so he would like to plow fields if possible. At that, Illya mentions how the ones who were held captive were forced to work in the north to grow wheat and turnips. Hearing her, Joshua exclaims that it's awesome, since it means that some of them have farming experience. However, Joshua continues that they need to get seeds for those crops, and horses and cattle, and thinks how they are hard to get on their own. He also thinks that they could search the fortress after the slave hunters leave or go by them at the southern city, but they can't do that right away. Then he asks Illya if she has ever seen sheep, but she was unfamiliar with the word. At that, Joshua describes they are animals covered with fluffy fur, to which she replies that she has seen them a few times in the past. However, she mentions how he might not find them nearby, and Joshua murmurs that she is right, as they won't go near places with ferocious boars. Then he tells her to notify him if she finds any, to which she replies that she will let Merc and the others know. At that, Joshua thanks her and says that he will do more work now, but Illya confuses him by saying she will accompany him. Joshua then tells her to get some rest since she hasn't slept, but Illya also tells him to rest for a bit. He hasn't slept because of yesterday's operation. Hearing that, Joshua states that she is right and proposes that they take a little break. 2 days later, after finishing with the southern and eastern areas and securing a place to sleep for everyone, Joshua tells Illya to look at the houses. Illya exclaims that it's a nice view, while Joshua says that it's like a proper big town now. Moreover, he adds that they will need a water supply next, and hearing that, Illya gets confused. At that, Illya asks while trembling if he is going to make a river by crafting water, to which Joshua says no, he can't make rivers. To clear things up, he describes that they will dig a trench and lay stones to extend the river to the village. Illya states that it sounds tough as well, but Joshua mentions that he has already asked some of the demis to start digging the waterway, and he believes they'll be done by tomorrow. Awed by his actions, Illya exclaims that it seems like there is nothing he can't make, but Joshua humbly replies that he wouldn't go that far. Also, he would like to do this and that. Illya catches Joshua's attention and requests him to make something, if he could get the water running. At that, Joshua positively answers that he will do anything he can and Illya thanks him. Then Illya mentions how there is a spring where warm water gushes out near the mines to the south, so Joshua asks if she is referring to a hot spring. Afterwards, Illya joyfully asks if he knows about them, and Joshua affirms that they are quite nice. Then he mentions that he tried them before and explains how they refresh one's body and relieve fatigue. After that, Illya says she thought it would be nice to have one of those hot springs in the village, since they would be able to clean their bodies as well. Then she apologizes to Joshua for the selfish request, but he replies that he also thinks having one nearby would be good. He further says that they can only bathe in the river right now, but warm water is where it's at. He additionally mentions that drawing water from the water supply and warming it up would be inefficient, but getting water from the spring itself seems like the best idea. Then he asks if she said it was near the mines, to which she responds with a yes and adds that she will take him there if he would like. At that, Joshua suggests they should go there and she joyfully replies okay. However, her mood soon shifts on their way, and she asks Asura, Met, and Merc about what they want. Merc replies that the two of them were having so much fun talking, that she just knew they were going somewhere exciting. Met on the other hand mentions that things are still dangerous, so they can't let her go by themselves. Illya then says that it sounds like an excuse and inquires about what she is doing with that towel, but Met blatantly replies that she wasn't thinking of bathing in the hot spring or anything. Meanwhile, Joshua suggests that they all just go, while thinking that no one said about bathing in the hot spring. After a while, Illya guides him to the hot spring, and looking at the scenery, he comments that it's a very nice place. However, the water looked hot, and the far end was bubbling. He dips his hand to check, but he immediately pulls it out, because the temperature was too extreme for him to handle. Then he thinks that it's way too hot for people to enter, and asks Illya and Met if they all went in that. Illya responds affirmatively and offers him to wash his back if he wishes to bathe, but Met tries to compete against her saying that it's her job. Joshua gets shocked and says no thanks, and thinks that it's way too hot for him no matter how he looks at it. On the other side, he sees Asura and Merc having the same reaction as him after dipping their hands in water, and wonders if only the demons don't find it hot. He also thinks about cooling it down for the other demis, and as he speculates how it wouldn't get lukewarm on its way to the village, all of them suddenly feel something that makes them startled. Then Joshua questions if it's an earthquake, but Merc states that it might be a big herd of boars or armored boars judging from the footsteps. Subsequently, Joshua suggests that they should go to check, since it would be scary to have too big of a herd near the village, while Merc reports that they are directly south from the village. Then Joshua tells Illya that it's a pity they couldn't bathe, but Illya tells him not to worry about it. She further states that Met was the only one looking forward to it. However, Met shouts that Illya was too. At that, Joshua tells them to relax and mentions that they will make a proper hot spring in the village. Then he asks Asura if she could fly to the village and let everyone know of this, to which she replies okay. After Asura was off to the village, Joshua informs Mage and Illya that they will head out of the forest, and they respond with a nod. Then as they rush out of the forest, Joshua notices dust clouds in the distance and states that boars running in a group would raise that much dust. However, he had his suspicions since armored boars don't flock together, but the Demon King's army tamed them to be able to act in groups. Then he questions if the Demon King's army made it that far, and after getting closer, he notices that they are running slowly for armored boars. He takes a closer look at them and mentions with a surprised expression that they are fleeps. Merc then asks what fleeps are, to which Joshua explains that they are sheep that the Demon King's army turned into monsters to get better fur and milk. He further says that both their wool and milk are expensive among humans, but they are ferocious, smart, and omnivores despite being sheep. Then as he talks about how taking on such a large herd would be challenging, despite the usefulness of their fur, one of the fleeps suddenly starts talking, and while addressing them as humans, it menacingly asks if they are getting in their way. Meanwhile, Joshua becomes surprised to know that it could talk and speculates that it's probably the boss. After that, the fleep continues that they won't let them get in the way cause the grass there is tasty, and then they rush at them, saying they will get rid of humans. Seeing that, Illya comes forward telling Joshua to stand back, but Joshua tries to stop her saying there are too many fleeps. He then continues that they will escape to the village for now, and Illya replies okay. Afterwards, as they were about to retreat, Joshua asks Merc what's wrong, and in response, she says that she doesn't know why, but she doesn't want to run away. Suddenly, more of the werewolves appear in front of Joshua and leaves him confused. He then advises them to wait, since facing them head-on is dangerous. However, Illya grabs Joshua's attention and points that the fleeps have stopped. On the other side, the fleeps were acting weird as they couldn't move their legs, and they state that those dog-looking things are scary. Seeing that, Joshua wonders if the werewolves and fleeps are like wolves and sheep, and cooks up a plan. He then orders Merc to have the werewolves surround the fleeps, and she nods her head saying got it. After that, the fleeps get scared as they question if the werewolves are trying to surround them. Then as they were wondering what to do, Joshua uses the opportunity and crafts a fence around them to stop them. Subsequently, one of the fleeps notifies others to look in the back and adds that there are horned ones and flying ones coming at them. Seeing that, all the fleeps lose their spirit to fight, but the leader tells them to stop being wimpy. The leader then orders fleeps to take them all down, but Illya sneakily points her katana at the leader and scares the hell out of him with a menacing expression. After that, the leader falls unconscious from fear, and one of the fleeps states that Ceres is down. Afterwards, Illya asks Joshua about what they should do about them, whereas Joshua says it looks like they lost their will to fight. Then he mentions that since they can talk, he will ask them some things. After a while, Ceres regains consciousness and flinches when she sees Illya's face, but Joshua reassures her saying they are not going to hurt her. Ceres then apologizes in a cowardly tone and mentions how they were attacked by humans just a while back. Subsequently, Joshua asks if they are from the demon's army, and Ceres replies in the affirmative. However, she adds that they were locked in a small shed the entire time, so they decided to escape. She further states that it was awful getting nothing but muddy water and rotten meat every day, whereas Joshua thinks how they were treated worse than regular sheep. Ceres then continued that luckily, they made it out of there, but couldn't relax since there were humans and monsters everywhere. Afterwards, Joshua breaks it to Ceres that any way they go from there, it is human territory, to which she replies in a concerning tone that they will get attacked again if they find them. At that, Illya grabs Joshua's attention and asks if they could take them in, but Joshua questions if she is sure. She replies affirmatively and adds that she will leave the decision to him, the leader of their alliance. However, Joshua tells her to stop with the leader thing. Afterward, Joshua looks at the trembling fleeps and suggests they take them in. Then he calls Ceres and tells them to make those parts their home, but Ceres inquires if they can do it since it's their land. At that, Joshua asks to share their milk and fur with them, and mentions that they will provide houses and fresh meals and let them move around freely. Ceres replies that they would be more than happy with that deal, whereas Joshua thanks her saying that they wanted wool as well. Ceres then thanks him asking his name and he introduces himself as Joshua. After that, they both shake their hands and Joshua says that it's their pleasure. Furthermore, Joshua mentions that they can get to the river from there, and the village is also nearby. Then he asks what kinds of houses they prefer, and Ceres replies that a big one where they can all stick together. Afterwards, Joshua says he will need to make a big shed, and then he crafts a huge shed using his crafting magic. At that, all the Fleeps freaks out seeing Joshua's magic, whereas Joshua says that it should fit everyone. Ceres then thanks him and tells him to ask them for fur and milk, and offers to cut some fur for him right now. Additionally, she says that they were hot because they grew too much, and Joshua tells her that he will take some. Then as Joshua and Ceres visit the shed, Ceres gets angry seeing the Fleeps asleep, and yells at them for not thanking Joshua yet. She continues that they might have been tired since they have been running around for a while, whereas Joshua tells her not to push themselves. Afterward, Joshua says they can wait for them to wake up. However, Ceres asks if he wants to sleep with them. Then she mentions how they also served as portable beds for the Demon King's army, and hearing that, Joshua excitedly asks if she can come by their place later. Later at night, as Joshua is sleeping on Ceres's fur, he feels nice since the fur is better than he thought, but he becomes confused about touching something soft and plump in the middle of the fluffiness. Suddenly, he wakes up in shock from hearing Ceres's moaning sound, and asks what that was. Then he sees that the squishy sensation he was feeling was none other than from grabbing Ceres's melons. Ceres calls Joshua dirty for touching her melons, but Joshua apologizes saying he didn't realize what it was. Then Ceres tells him that there is an order to those things, but since she promised to give him milk, she decides to fulfill it. After that, a flash of light blinds Joshua, and then he becomes confused to see Ceres turning into a human girl. At that, Ceres mentions they have devil blood in their veins, and with practice, they can change into their devil forms. She continues that devils and humans have similar forms, so it will make it easier for him to drink milk. Then as she presents her bouncy melons to Joshua for drinking milk, Illya suddenly appears behind Ceres and menacingly calls her name. She asks if she didn't say everything has an order. However, Ceres asks in a cowardly tone if she did something wrong. Afterwards, Illya drags Ceres away, while telling Joshua that she will work things out with Ceres about milk and fur, whereas Joshua tells her to keep it civil. Suddenly, Met wakes up saying she hopes nothing happens to Ceres, and seeing her, Joshua wonders why she is there. He also notices Asura and Merc sleeping beside him, and thinks that these peaceful days aren't bad either. 3 days later, Met comments that they have gotten more tools for fishing, farming, and mining, made a ton of bedding with fleep fur and boar leather. She continues that they have gotten more sheds, and built more houses, but Merc from a corner states that Joshua did everything. Afterward, Joshua and the two of them look at the completed waterway and gets excited. Merc on the contrary says that she can swim wherever she wants now, but Joshua tells her to do that in the hot springs as this is for drinking. After that, Met states that it will make it easier to fetch water, while Joshua mentions how they also drew water for the fields. Then he says that he is going to go check the slave hunter's fortress, since he wants to see if there is anything usable lying around. Hearing that, Met replies that she will go as well, since she wants to see what their fortress is like, to which Joshua says that it'll be reassuring to have her with him. Met mentions how he should take her as a guard, and Illya should act like a chief. However, she closes her mouth as she speculates that Illya might be listening to them at that moment. Likewise, Merc approaches Joshua saying she will go as well, and in response, Joshua thanks her. He mentions how Illya and Asura should be teaching the Tengu how to hunt, so it'll just be the 3 of them today. At that, Merc states that she will go ahead and check what things are like, and Joshua replies that they will catch up with her soon. After that, they travel through the plains, and as they are on their way to the hunter's fortress, Merc suddenly comes running to them and says that something is wrong. She reports to Joshua that the people they saw before at the fortress are dead, and it looks like someone killed them. He asks if she means people like Kabus, and she replies affirmatively. However, she mentions that other humans were killed too, and hearing that, Joshua gets confused. He thought the mercenaries betrayed them for being unable to pay because the slaves were freed, but he questions what could it be if it's not betrayal. Then he looks at the smoke coming from the distance and suggests that they should go to take a look. After arriving at the hunter's fortress, Joshua and the others look at the devastating scene and wonder what on earth happened. Looking at how they were killed, Met believes that they must have held quite a grudge. Joshua knew that there were countless demis who held a grudge against the slave hunters and believes that a nearby demi might saw an opening and attack them. Afterward, Joshua mentions how they even burned down the houses and fields, but hopefully, there are some crop seeds left in the fields. Suddenly, Merc notifies Joshua that something is coming and Joshua becomes alerted hearing that. Then a number of people suddenly ambush them out of nowhere, but looking at their distinctive features, Joshua identifies them as demi-tigers and that they are from the Grank mercenaries. Met and Merc are confused as they didn't know about them, so Joshua describes that they are demi-tigers who used to live in a desert area called the State of Grank. They were attacked by human slave hunters and forced to flee their homeland. After that, they worked as mercenaries in the Demon King's army, but after becoming stronger, they started switching sides back and forth, the Demon King's army and the humans, in order to earn money, and are now living in the south. He heard about them many times before on the battlefield, but he never thought he would meet them here of all places. After that, one of the demi-tigers asks that there are still survivors and tells Joshua to put his hands up and surrender. At that, Joshua shouts that they are not their enemies and mentions how they were fighting the people here until just the other day. In disbelief, the demi-tiger responds that he is just another slave hunter who was trembling in fear and hiding. However, Met tells her that she is mistaken and draws her sword and says that Joshua might be a human, but he is not like those other humans. Then looking at her horn, the demi-tiger asks if she is a demon and mistakes her for Joshua's slave. After that, she insults Met by calling her a poor bastard, and then they both clash with each other. At that, the demi-tiger states she is not bad for a slave. However, Met angrily shouts that she is not a slave. Then she orders Merc to protect Joshua and she replies that she knows. Meanwhile, Joshua analyzes that Met and the demi-tiger are almost equal in strength, but other demi-tigers are headed their way one after another. He knows their circumstances and he doesn't want to make an enemy out of the Grank mercenaries, so he orders Met to back off. Hearing that, Met backs off, whereas Joshua crafts a rock wall between them and the demi-tiger. Then the demi-tiger gets surprised to see a wall suddenly pop up and cracks her blade while trying to attack it. On the other side, Joshua exclaims nice, but all of a sudden, the demi-tiger climbs up the wall while saying that she is not done yet. Then suddenly, one of the demi-tigers addresses her as Nia and says that it's enough. However, Nia tells her father that they're suspicious no matter how they look at them, and he replies that they are. Then he continues how a human, a werewolf, and a demon are a group they don't see every day. Suddenly, an arrow is aimed at Nia's father and he barely dodges it. Seeing that, everyone including Nia and Joshua gets surprised, and the demi-tigers asks who that was. Afterward, they see that it is Illya, but Joshua was confused seeing her. Then Illya pulls out her katana and dashes towards the demi-tigers, however, they tell her to halt. After that, Illya slashes 3 of the demi-tigers in an instant and targets Nia's father next. Then she clashes with Nia's father and angrily tells him to get away from Joshua. Meanwhile, Joshua notices how fast they are. But the demi-tiger man has his weapon hidden, so he believes that he doesn't want to fight either. Afterward, Joshua shouts at Illya to stop and mentions that he has no intention of fighting. Then she backs off, and Nia's dad states how his sword won't last against her crazy strength. Subsequently, Nia arrives at her father's side and says she will join him, but he forbids her because Illya is not someone she can beat. On the other hand, Joshua is glad that he is not hostile, since he has never seen anyone wield a sword as fast as him before, and if he kept fighting with 2 swords, Illya might have been in danger too. After that, the demi-tiger apologizes to Joshua and introduces himself as Balon of the Grank mercenaries, and likewise, Joshua introduces himself as well. Then Balon asks Joshua if they are from the Fendel Alliance thing the merchant mentioned. Joshua replies they are, and asks about the corpses, to which Balon mentions it's their doing. He also mentions that they owed them, so he had them pay them back. On the contrary, Joshua says they requested the slave hunters to leave this place, and they came to see if they had left anything. At that, Balon apologizes for what they did and adds that they don't have much to spare either, and there's nothing they can give them. Joshua replies that it's fine, but they will at least see if there are any crops buried in the fields. Balon tells him to do as he wishes, and mentions that they will be returning to the south, as they are done here. Afterward, Balon calls Nia and asks if she couldn't find him. She replies that there is nothing in the fortress, and seeing them, Merc out of curiosity asks if they are looking for someone. In reply, Nia says it's none of her business. However, Balon asks if she has seen anyone who looks like them around there. Merc replies no, and also she can't smell anyone, but she will let them know if she finds someone. Hearing that, Joshua wonders if a slave hunter got one of their friends, and he hopes they find them soon. Suddenly, they all hear a crashing noise and look to see that the wagons of the demi-tigers crashed and piled up. The demi-tigers that were on the scene were confused because of the mess and chatter among themselves. On the other side, Nia angrily yells that they destroyed their precious wagons, but Balon tells her to calm down since they are rickety. However, he is troubled by the thought of carrying their luggage by hand, so Joshua asks if they want him to fix them, and adds that he knows how to use crafting magic. Hearing that, Balon mentions it will take time to fix the 5 of them, but looking at how just the wheels and axles needed fixing, Joshua states that he will be done in a few minutes top. At that, Nia tells him not to be silly and points out that even the most skilled mages need at least a day to fix a wagon. However, Joshua replies he is sure they were also busy with something else, and additionally says that just those really shouldn't take long. Balon then tells him to fix it if he insists, and adds that they will be sure to thank him when he is done. After that, Joshua approaches the pile of broken wagons and states that it will be better to make new wooden axles than to put them back together. Then he stores all the wagons in his crafting space and makes everyone surprised. In confusion, Nia asks where their wagons went, but Balon mentions with crafting magic, one has to first stuff the materials into a different space. Then he tells her to stay calm and watch, to which she shouts that she knows that much, but a whole wagon is another thing. Likewise, Balon thinks that she is right and that he has never seen anyone else fit an entire wagon in there either. Meanwhile, Joshua hears them talking about him and becomes certain that his crafting magic is good even when compared to the mages in the south. Afterward, Joshua repairs all the wagons and surprises Balon, since he really did that in minutes. Then Balon refers to Joshua as one crazy guy, and asks if he wants to join them. Hearing that, Illya clings to Joshua and shouts that he can't. Afterward, Met and Merc also join Illya, and make Balon speechless. At that, Joshua apologizes to him and mentions that he can't go with them. He continues that if they are nearby and he needs him to repair or make something, he can leave it to him for a price, and Balon replies he will appreciate that. Subsequently, Balon says that they will pay him for repairing their carriages as well, and asks what he would like. Joshua replies that he would like crop seeds of any kind and a decent number of them if possible. Afterward, Balon orders one of his men to bring them here, but Nia asks in shock if he is going to give them those seeds. In response, he says that they have no settlement and do not plan to plant them anyway, but Nia tells him to wait. She says that's Grank's last legacy now that they have lost Lycie and her mother. However, Balon replies that it's better than letting them rot, and he wants to leave them in the hands of someone who can grow them. Then he hands Joshua a bag saying that it's Grank barley, and tells him to grow it well. Joshua asks if there is anything he needs to keep in mind when growing them, but Balon replies with a bit of water they will grow strong like them. He tells Joshua that they will be returning south and offers him to stop by when he is in the neighborhood. He also tells him in a serious tone to be careful. At that, Joshua asks if there are more slave hunters, but Balon replies he is just telling him to take care. Joshua then says that he will and thanks him for the warning. Afterward, Balon and his team leave for the south while Joshua and the others look at them from a distance. After arriving at the village, Merc with a disappointed tone says there aren't that many seeds that look usable. However, Joshua tells her that it's a good start. After the Grank mercenaries left, they searched the fields. Merc used her sense of smell to look around, but they only found about 200 Demon King turnips, since the rest were mostly harvested. For the time being, he wants to focus on increasing their stock of seeds and mentions that Demon King turnips aren't that difficult to grow. Merc didn't know what Demon King turnips were, so Joshua gave her a detailed explanation for it. To make it simple, he says they are turnips that grow fast and large, and also mentions how they need little water to grow, so once planted, they can be harvested in about a month. Joshua further states that they are very bitter but edible. However, Merc flinches from hearing it. Then Joshua continues that they also have the barley that Balon gave them, so firstly, he will try making a field. Moving on, they arrive at a field and Joshua states that they will turn these parts into their new field. Looking at the grass, he mentions that they will first need to weed. Afterwards, he cooks up a plan and calls for Ceres. He then asks if they can eat up the grass on those parts, to which she replies sure thing. On the other side, he tells the villagers to till the soil from where the fleeps eat the grass, and they reply okay. He pulls out some Grank barley seeds from the bag and mentions that they are planting demon seed turnips in this barley. Seeing that, Met asks if they are really going to grow as they are black, but Joshua replies he is not sure because he is not experienced with farming. He thinks that the color, however, is not barley-like. Still, Balon said they will grow if they plant them. He wants to try it first. Afterward, Illya brings some people who used to work on the fortress farmland, and Joshua thanks her. Then Joshua and the villagers start plowing the fields and then they start planting seeds. As Illya plants some seeds in the soil, she wishes that this one seed becomes thousands. Joshua thinks about how Balon told them to grow this with care because they are the barley of his homeland. And one day when the whole area becomes a beautiful barley field, he wants to show it to them. A few days later, Merc tells Joshua that she has a favor to ask. However, Joshua in the midst of having his meal is surprised to see both Merc and Asura looking at him for a favor. Then they excitedly tell Joshua that they want their own clothes. At that, Joshua asks if they want some special type of clothes, to which they replies yes. Merc then says that since the two of them can use magic, they want to look like magicians with matching outfits. Hearing that, Joshua replies he will try making them with fleep fur, and Merc thanks him. After that, he begins to create matching magician's clothes in his inventory, and a while later, he instantly crafts clothes directly over their bodies. Then Merc asks Joshua how she looks, and he compliments her saying she looks good. On the other side, Asura asks what about her, and in reply, Joshua says it looks good on her too, and with that, she will make good progress with her magic studies. Merc adds that he is the teacher, and he will keep teaching her magic. However, Joshua says that he really only knows the basics other than crafting magic, and he already taught her what he knows. He further says that if she wants to learn more, that's exactly what schools and grimoires are for, but Merc replies she doesn't want to leave the village. Then she tells Joshua to craft her a grimoire, but Joshua says he can't do it. He explains to her that he can't make everything. He will buy her one if he gets the chance. Additionally, he mentions that they are sold in human towns, but hearing that, Merc tells him to never mind and that she doesn't want him to leave for another town. After that, Med asks what's up with them too, and while holding a huge boar, she says that they are looking quite stylish. Merc tells her that Joshua made it for her and he made one for Asura as well. Hearing that, Met states that it must be nice, and adds that she thinks she wants one too. Merc frankly tells her that it wouldn't look good on her, since that is a magician's look. But Met angrily asks what she said. She shouts that she looks good in anything, and it's because she is pretty. At that, Joshua says that he will make her the clothes she wants to, and she excitedly asks if he is telling the truth. Then Met begins to think of a cloth she likes, but she can't come to a conclusion. And seeing her, Joshua thinks how she can't think of the cloth she likes off the top of her head. After that, she clenches her skirt and bashfully says that she wants the clothes he wants to see her in. At that, Joshua says both her armor and what she is wearing now look good on her. However, Met excitedly tells him to make the clothes that humans wear when they get married, and asks if humans also wear something special at weddings. Joshua replies that they do, and Met says that it's what she wants then. Hearing that, Merc says she wants one too, and likewise, Asura tells him the same thing. The three of them start quarreling about marrying Joshua. However, Illya enters the scene and asks Joshua about the matter. Joshua replies that Met and the others started arguing over clothes, so Illya scolds them saying that all they do is give him trouble. He then asks what they will do if he starts hating them, but Joshua with a straight face says that he could never hate them. He further adds that they might end up hating him, but he will never hate them. At that, Illya grabs Joshua's hand while saying his name and tells him that she will love him forever. Then she smiles at him and in response, Joshua says he loves her too. On the other hand, Met and the others menacingly stare at him, so he tells them that he loves them too. After that, Met tells Illya that she is trying to get ahead again. However, Illya tells Met to not make her look bad and adds that Joshua is just tired of how childish they are. Hearing that, Asura freaks out, but Joshua shakes her hand implying that she is wrong. Meanwhile, Illya continues to yap about how they have to be a calm, adult lady like her to serve as the partner of their alliance's leader, Joshua. Afterward, they all start arguing over who is an adult and who is not, whereas Joshua thinks about how he became the village leader somewhere along the line. Just the other day, people asked him to approve a couple's marriage, and aside from requests to make things, he is being asked to share his opinion on important matters. He is genuinely glad that he can do things for others, but he wonders if he will be able to protect everyone if he keeps this up and becomes the leader of the village. Before he knew it, he came to like everyone here, and he will probably work with all his might for everyone's sake, for as long as he stays in the village. He has been betrayed by his friends, and he doesn't know how to get on, and doesn't have the knowledge or experience to rise from above the crowd. Then he starts to be concerned while thinking if he really is fit to be a leader when crafting magic is all he has. After that, Illya calls him back to reality and asks if he is not feeling well, but Joshua replies that's not it. Merc mentions that Joshua is afraid of her, since she had a scary look earlier, but Illya shouts that it's not true. In a panic, Illya asks Joshua if it's true, but Joshua tells her not to worry as he was just thinking. He further adds that he will make each of them the clothes they want, so he requests them to not fight. At that, Illya thanks him and tells him to feel free to ask her if he needs help with anything. Likewise, Met agrees with Illya and says that it's because he is their precious friend after all. On the other side, Met tells him to talk to her if something goes wrong, and Asura repeats the same thing. Joshua then thanks them with a smile on his face, but suddenly, he gets confused to hear something. After that, Ceres quickly arrives at their place while yelling that they have got in trouble. Then Joshua asks Ceres what's wrong, and she replies that they saw a ton of humans when they were eating grass in the south. She additionally mentions how orcs were chasing after those humans, and hearing that, both Joshua and Illya get shocked. Ceres then continues to say that they are undoubtedly from the Demon King's army, and hearing that they are from the Demon King's army, Joshua dashes to see the situation. He thinks that when he left the Order, the Demon King's army was already noticeably gaining momentum, and given the situation, the humans who were in the south were probably being chased by them. He can't turn a blind eye to this, but then he arrives at the outskirts of the village and sees smoke in the distance. Illya and others follow him outside, so Joshua tells them to not ever try to leave the village or fight them. He further adds if a neutral demi joins either side, it means they make an enemy out of the other. Joshua then tells the gatekeeper to close the gate after he leaves, but Illya tells him that it's too dangerous to go by himself. Subsequently, Joshua tells them that if a demi comes to help a human being chased, a war with the Demon King's army will break out. Then he imagines them being killed by the Demon King's army and grits his teeth and tells them to just stay there and wait. On the other side, the humans that were on the carriage were praying in desperation, whereas the driver was concerned that they would catch up to them at this rate. Afterwards, he notices Joshua standing in front of him, and Joshua tells him to keep running north and that he will buy them some time. The driver then thanks him while passing him by, and Joshua instantaneously crafts a fence behind him. A while later, Joshua notices that they have arrived. On the other side, as the orcs were chasing after the humans in excitement, they suddenly stopped seeing Joshua and wondered who that guy was. They then start laughing to see one unnamed man and mention how they killed a ton of foolish humans like him. Joshua, on the contrary, tells them to come at him if they can, and adds that he is going to take as many of them down with him as possible. The orcs, while riding a boar, says that he is the only one who's gonna die. However, Joshua thinks that he can counter them by placing a pointed stick in their path, but he probably can't use the same move twice. All of a sudden, Illya passes him by and leaves him surprised. After that, Illya defeats one of the orcs with one slash. However, Joshua wonders why she came. Illya then tells him that his enemies are their enemies and she will fight against them no matter how powerful they are. So she requests him not to take it all on himself and adds that she will help him, just like how he helped her.